And we're back here once again with another episode of the MSK Show, and this is going to be episode 99. And in this episode of the MSK Show, I'm going to be having a conversation with content creator and indie comic book creator John's Longbox. So as you guys know, he made actually 3 appearances on my previous Iron Man podcast. And as you guys know, I have a little bit of DC around here in me. I was like basically post-crisis. Then I went into New 52. Then I went into basically Rebirth, and now I'm basically Dawn of DC with this show, and now I'm just all in on it. So we basically went full circle. I told myself I was never going to be like that, and well, look at me. I just became DC myself, and then I just rebooted back to number 1, like Marvel Comics do. So you will always become the thing you swore to destroy, something like that. Fucking hell.
You become that which you have hate. Yeah.
I finally became that guy. So we're going to go into a lot of things in the show because as people know, I love comic books of all shapes and sizes. I love manga. I love omnibus. I love every comic book. Like, literally, that's the reason why I even started my other YouTube channel, was because I needed that outlet to talk about comic books because I just love it so much. And, you know, when there's people that don't know what the fuck they're talking about, it's actually pretty noticeable. I think comics is one of the few nerd mediums where if that person doesn't know what they're talking about, it's so easily noticeable. You know, it's like, my God, there was one comment that I saw earlier this year. The dude was like, Marvel and DC don't have to do some variant scheme to actually get more people to buy their comic books. And I'm like, all right, you just added yourself as a fucking tourist. That's literally what they do. You think people will read the stuff in the books?
That's what's keeping them in business.
I'll tell people this. Why do you guys get surprised when certain dialogue happens in certain comic books? Well, there you go. There's your answer. No one's read them, because if people were reading them, more people would catch on.
You read comics? You're supposed to just buy them and brag.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's Comics Gate. Come on, man. Don't. So we'll start here for people that, you know, may not know you or have seen your appearances on the other show, since that was like 600 episodes deep. What is your comic book journey, actually? Starting from the beginning.
Oh, in the beginning, I always tell people I started collecting comics around 1975, but I'm an older gentleman, and I've been reading comics my whole life. Back in the 70s, comics were everywhere. Even people that normies, everybody had comic books. There was always comic books. So I have 2 older brothers. I have 2 older sisters. There was always comics in my house. I had millions of cousins. So there was comics, and I am a hoarder. So like, yeah, out of all my family, extended family, like the comics just congregated to me, and I loved them. I was fascinated with them. I couldn't put them down. And the story that I tell people, 3rd grade, so we were 8 years old. So this was 1974. Mm-hmm. I'm reading. I'm buying comics, but I was in the bottom reading group. I couldn't read. You know, like I could functionally read to get promoted in school, but I couldn't really read. So I made friends with this. I transferred to this school, so I'm new to the school. I can't really read too well, and they were reading comics. You know, I perused comics, looked at comics, watched the cartoon movies, but I never really read comics. And now I'm getting shamed by my friends. What do you mean you can't read? You know, what is it? So I just started to read, because before that, reading was just a chore that you did. Like, you don't go home and do math problems with your friends. Why would you go home and read? And now from 3rd grade, I went from the bottom reading group to the top reading group, because I just fell in love with reading comics, you know. And then by 5th grade, I was like one of the, you know, I was doing genealogies of Greek mythology, and, you know, yeah. I was reading all the King Arthur books and writing down like all the knights' names and their attributes and things like that. I you know, just a lunatic. I was making charts of all the Marvel comic stories and who is in it and who's related to who, and, you know, who's on different. I loved doing stuff like that.
This is back in the day before like guidebooks came out or collected editions of
there was no
like character profiles,
no Wikipedias, you know.
Yeah. You basically had to just get that board out, the whiteboard out, and just start going.
Oh, this was all in like notebook paper, you know. Like, I crazy notebooks. You know, I used to love school supplies. You know, I'd get like one notebook for each subject, then I would just have like another notebook just for like crazy, insane doodling. And, you know, back then I wanted to be a comic artist, so I was drawing all the characters and writing everything down. And, you know, my my drawing skills have not evolved. I still draw like I did in third grade. But I almost literally can't remember not being interested in comics. And then, back then you just bought comics. Like, yeah. So my friends like, you collect comics? I'm like, yeah. And like, no, you don't. I'm like, what do you mean you don't? Like, I go into the store and if I like it, like, no, if you collect the comics, you got to get them every month in order. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they explained to me like number 10. That means next issue is number 11. And you got to get it. I was like, oh my God. That was like stressful because now I realized I was missing issues. And back then there wasn't a comic book stores, if you missed it on the newsstand, you were gone, So I remember that became like a fun little, as you kids would say, a side quest. Like I was a little kid, so I wasn't allowed on mass transit and stuff. So I would, ride my bike to other stores, check out their spinner racks, and then I started getting brave. I would save up my lunch money and get on the bus and go to the next town over, and check out all theirs, run around in their strip, and it was fun tracking down old issues. And then I found one place. Well, there was two places. One was an old cigar store called Optimo. I don't think they're around anymore, but it was like lottery tickets, cigars, tobacco products, and then a wall of magazines. So it's not just comics. We're talking like Hustler, Playboy, Omni, heavy metal, just, magazines. And this guy never returned. So it was just like you went in there and you could find like 6 months worth of every comic, but they were next to all the nudie mags. So he would be like, hey, so like you had a certain amount of time before the old guy would come in and yell at you and get you. You had to find it quick. So it was like your heart was racing. You're looking for that issue of Ghost Rider that you're missing, but I used to love that. Like the chase is these days, you want something, you just go online and hit a button and a couple of days later it shows up, it's just a matter of paying for it, but back then you had to find it and chase it. It was a lot of fun.
So you've essentially been with like comics for like a lot of different decades. Essentially, you were there when like Image popped off.
Yeah, when Image came, I was like, this is crap. I hated Image. Like I still think people get mad.
You know what I think? I think Rob Liefeld thinks that too. Because the more I looked into Youngblood, because I never read any Youngblood, so I had to literally look into its history. Because I told you when I was growing up, I never liked comics around me, so I had to like look into history, keep up to date with stories and stuff like that. If you guys look into the Youngblood history, it popped off when you said, and then that's it. It's never popped up ever again. He sold it to multiple different people, even at like Mark Millar doing a Youngblood story. It's not a story that can have that longevity there. So for him to come back to it now is pretty jarring, is it not? Even he himself didn't value it as a property. He sold it completely.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Did he get screwed out of the rights? Was he broke? Did he think? I don't know the story.
Probably was. He was a drug addict at one point.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
It's the whole meth thing. Oh my goodness.
This is the first time hearing about that. I was not a fan of Rob Liefeld. In fact, I was pretty mean. When you saw that Captain America picture with the big old boobies and everything.
Oh God, good Lord.
In my comic book store, like I got a job at a comic book store, and I made it so that I never made fun of people and their purchases. I just, you know what I mean? Like you came in, you got your Image comics. I was like, it's good to see you, man. Oh, good. I'm done. But then like we had our core group of people. I'm like, man, I hate Rob Liefeld. I hate Image Comics, Bob. But I didn't want to. You don't insult the customers, But in my little clique, like Rob Liefeld was a joke, but I've grown to like him. I really like him as a person. I still don't like his characters. I don't like Deadpool. I don't like Cable. I don't Image Comics in general. But I've grown to like Rob Liefeld. His love of comics is kind of infectious, and it's actually quite refreshing to see a guy who loves comic books as much as him. Like everybody else seems to be kind of embarrassed by comics.
Like Tom McFarlane, he went on to obviously do McFarlane toys, and he just spawned now. Jim Lee, he knew where his bread was buttered. He literally just circled back to DC.
I think Jim Lee works best when he has a boss telling him what to do. Now that he's the boss, like I know people look at me like I'm crazy, but like I don't like his new 52 designs. All the suits just have these weird lines. Why? Superhero suits should be simple and elegant, and Jim Lee just made them unnecessarily complicated with lines. I don't know. I just think he's like, I don't want to say lazy, because if I had millions of dollars in the bank, would I really want to work every day either?
say there's an element of laziness to him. I would, because remember, they're putting him and Jeff Loeb on Batman for issues 158 to 163 coming up, and they knew before they even did that they had to get him to draw issues out months in advance, because they knew that he has had a history of basically, getting tired of something midway through and dropping it off and going to something else. He reminds me of a few friends that I've had over the course of my life, where there's that friend that'll be like, hey man, I'm really all into like baseball, and then the next week they're all into like fucking flowers. He's the kind of guy to me.
I got friends that are just like, all right, let's play Dungeons and Dragons. All right, you guys get to commit because I'll make a freaking campaign. That's gonna last all year long. And then like 3 weeks, oh man, I joined softball. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Paul.
Like I remember, like there was the guys. I'm pretty sure it was it Jim Valentino or Mark Sylvester, or Eric Larson, one of them in the group was like, hey, we got to get our books out on time. We can't just be dropping books like 3-4 months late. And you could tell who truly had the good work ethic to push Image to where it's at now. And I forgot who it was, but I'm glad the guy that's doing it now did it. Because remember, if that person didn't take that initiative and go, hey, our business has to make money, we got to put stuff on time.
So wait a minute, you're saying comic books have to come out in a timely manner?
I heard you'll wait 4 years for quality. That's what I heard around these folks. Good Lord, man.
When Image Comics came out, I was like excited, because it was the new hotness. Mm-hmm. Until I actually got the Image Comics, I thought they would. But the thing is, I'm pretty outspoken today, and I'm the kind of guy that like, I don't care if you think I'm crazy, I'm going to say whatever. But back when you're a teenager, there's always, I don't care how individualistic you are, there's still like, I really don't want to go. So I was getting these Image Comics, and I'm like, I don't like them. I remember reading Supreme, and I'm like, they're not good. The art's kind of bad. Like I remember he had a hammer, but the hammer clearly went through his fist. Yeah. Like it was just like poorly drawn. The story.
Did you ever read Savage Dragon?
Yeah,
that's still going on. That's still going on. That shit is like 300 issues deep.
He's an exception. Savage Dragon was awesome. It's almost at 300 now, and I'm going to say there was 150 awesome issues, and and then he degenerated into like, I'm not even joking, like borderline kiddie porn. And I'm the freak that can't stop because I've been with it since the beginning. I'm like, oh man. Every month I say I'm gonna stop getting Savage Dragon, and every month I order another copy.
Yeah, Jim Lee obviously has Wildcats, and that's been reprinted a lot of times. But like, but this is the thing I wanted to bring up, because you understand this, guys. Keep in mind, one of the people out of the group literally went, we have to make this a legitimate business. We can't just be fucking around. And then that is also one of the things that caused a rift with a lot of them, to make them, oh, man, he's too harsh. He wants to get things done on time. He's business. You have to. I know there's this thing in artists. They're like, I could just sit around and just do art. Well, how are you going to make money off of that? You have to be able to make money to live. I don't know why that second thing does not apply to people.
But not only that, people were depending upon them. Like,
yeah, their family.
Image had secretaries. Image had like business people. They had sale people. They had they needed. I hate the word product because to me comic books are art.
It feels kind of corporate when you say that. Yeah,
but they needed to put out product. They needed to, and then there was comic book stores that were depending upon it too. In comic book stores, I'm not even joking. You could go 2 weeks, could put a 2 bad weeks in a row, could put a comic book store out of business. Because let's face it, most people who ran comic book stores, they did it because they liked Batman, not because they were business people.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So.
That's even happening right now with Diamond distributors. Right now, they've been getting sometimes books out to comic shops like 2 weeks late. If you guys don't know how the comic book meta goes, because you know as well as I do, if you get your pull list books 2 weeks late, not only because an average customer is not that smart, let's be honest here, they don't know how businesses work. If something comes late for an average customer, they will not give you their business anymore. They'll literally stop pulling books. And keep in mind, there's already a finite amount of people that are still pulling current modern comic books right now. And I actually read a stat for a bunch of the indie comic book guys that were talking about the price increase going into 2025 or 2026. Like they had mentioned, there's the price increase might get people to stop buying books because there's not that many people still buying floppies. So keep in mind, there's already not a lot of people buying floppies, and the stuff's coming late. And keep in mind, if you're already not reading a comic book series you're pulling in 2 weeks, you're gonna be behind. You're just behind.
Not only that, there's a whole like. I'm not one of these people. I have patience, like, but a lot of people like they want to be the first one to get the new issue of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So if this store sells out or whatever, they'll just go to the next store. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like this, I've when I quit comics, I made sure I cleaned out my pull list. I didn't want to screw over the stores. You know what I mean? So I remember when I broke up with my comic books when I discovered the discount comic book service, because comics were so expensive and I was getting like $400 a month on comics. So I switched over to an online service because you would order 3 months ahead and you would get like 35 to 50% discount depending on the comic.
You were crazy. $400, man. My pull list can be about $80. It's about $100 when you factor in shipping to get like 4 weeks of books.
Right. Well, but I'm saying this was at the height. So it was funny because I got married, and then 3 years later, I started switching online. So I actually went to the comic book store and told the guy, "Yeah, I'm married," and and he was like, "It happens every time they get married." I literally broke up, and I was like, "I know I ordered stuff. So I'll get everything out of my pull list because you know what I mean." And then I went. So this is what I got this month. So I'm still getting comics. This is my new batch of comics for November. You know what I mean? So I still buy new comics.
What did you get?
What's that?
What did you get?
Red Coat.
Okay.
Magic Order. Saga.
Oh, you're just getting like Image, Dark Horse stuff, right?
No Marvel, no DC, Gargoyles, Black Hammer. This is such a good comic. Such a good comic.
That looks cool.
Almost all, not almost all the Ghost Machine, Geiger.
Mm-hmm. Did you get the Rockefellers from them that came out?
I didn't. Like this is like an ancillary Hellboy book. So this is Sir Edward Grey. He's like a witch hunter in Victorian England in the Hellboy. I love that. Speaking of the Savage Dragon, still getting Savage Dragon. Every month
this man's not giving up. This man's like, I'm already too far in deep. I'm gonna keep going.
And a new Alan Moore book, The Light of Thy Countenance.
That guy's art is he's easily one of the best artists ever. That guy's art is timeless. It never gets bad. Cool. I don't know God, man.
Alan Moore is the writer. This is by Felipe Massafera. I don't know what this is, but I'm an Alan Moore fanboy. I know we're supposed to hate Alan Moore these days. And then this is a hardcover of Atlas Comics, a collection of their war stories. For those of you who don't know, Marvel Comics originally was called Timely Comics. Then it became Atlas Comics. And then I think it was right after Fantastic Four #1, they became Marvel Comics. So this is Marvel Comics when they were called Atlas Comics, basically the 50s. And it's just war comic stuff I'm not too familiar with. So these are called Atlas Comics Library, and this is number 4. I started with number 2 because it's a collection of Venus, a Marvel character. She's the goddess of love. And I'm like, how did I? Oh no, this is volume 1. So when I got that, it was volume 2. So I thought I'm missing Venus volume 1. So I looked and I saw each volume is a different topic. But that's what I got this month. So I'm still buying new comics, but this ain't $400 a month like I used to spend. And I blame Marvel for that. But I'm still getting a lot of, maybe even too much crowdfunded comics. Like this week alone, I got a Dime Store Detective 1-4, which was absolutely wonderful. John Dexter, he has an active campaign on Kickstarter right now called Alpha Dogs, but you could get his other comics. I totally recommend Dime Store Detective. Mike Barron just sent me a copy of Gooding because he fell asleep and missed our chat last week and made it. But I'm constantly getting crowdfunded comics, so I still love comics. But in 2015, I quit. Something was bothering me about comics, and it's funny because it wasn't until a couple of weeks ago, literally a couple of weeks ago, I realized I'm a crazy person. my wife realized that I was a crazy person decades ago, but I realized I was a crazy person a couple of weeks ago. I'm a fan of when Henry Cavill, when he left The Witcher, he said, like, I like all the little details. I like drawing the lines. I like all the little, nuances of the lore. And if you don't like that, then you don't like the subject material. Like, it's one thing to just turn on a Lord of the Rings movie and just enjoy the Lord of the Rings movie. But it's another thing to get into the Silmarillion and you want to know the genealogy of these characters and know how the White Tree of Gondor was a sapling that came from Numenor, which was inspired from Talassar, which, you know what I mean? Like, there's a freaking genealogy of a tree, and I love that stuff. So when Marvel, as much as I love Marvel Comics, I'm a big fan of this continuity. Like, I like knowing that the Savage Land was created by the Kree, and it's used as like a preserve, nature preserve. So it's not just dinosaurs; it's all the animals. And I like that the Kree tampered genetically with the Inhumans and made them as a slave race, and then abandoned them, and blah blah blah, and all of these little things. And I love that there was a meteor that broke apart into fragments and landed in the Savage Land and Wakanda and Wundagore Mountain. And there's different frequencies of vibranium that have different things. And I love all of that stuff. And then somewhere around 2000. Marvel started either forgetting the continuity or not respecting the continuity or hiring people that didn't know about the continuity in the first place, and the editors didn't know to correct them. And I started getting annoyed. So I just rage quit in 2015 of Marvel and DC. DC was easy because they disregard their continuity every couple of years. It just drives me nuts.
They're literally the kid that's like, you got a new toy that I can play with? It's literally that every single time.
So I quit Marvel and DC. Like, they were still doing identity politics, but it wasn't as bad. The peak was around like 2017. So I'm glad I missed out on that. Oh man. To the point now, even if Marvel and DC self-correct, I can't go back. It's like calling up that ex-girlfriend and be like, I know we broke up and I know you're crazy and I know we had a reason that we're not, but do you want to get back together again anyway? So, and I actually despaired for a while. I'm like, am I done with comics? And I heard, your boy Zach, early 2016, maybe even earlier. I'm trying to brush my crazy hair. And I got involved with him. I was one of his insiders, talking about I was like, wow, other people feel the same way as me. And I was all excited about it, and I got back into comics through crowdfunded comics. That's almost 10 years of crowdfunded comics. So and then I moved out here because during COVID, it started to get crazy. If you lived in the 5 boroughs of Manhattan, I lived in Queens. Mm-hmm. People were staying home. Nobody was moving their cars, so it was impossible to find parking space. All my favorite restaurants were closed. So I told my wife, it's time to get out of Manhattan. Things are getting weird. Like COVID. The shutdown was going on for a few months, and I had no idea how long it was going to last. I was like, we got to get out of here. So we bought this small house. I say it out in the sticks, and we moved out here, and I didn't know anybody, and I still wanted to talk about comic books. So I started a YouTube channel, and I didn't know what I was doing. I would take my phone and I would record a comic book and I would talk and I would whisper. If you go back and watch my first 100 videos or so, they're excruciatingly bad. I mean, they're bad now, but back then they were. Even one of my best friends, like, dude, I can't watch your channel. It's terrible, And I eventually got more comfortable just talking about comics. Like, literally, my first 6 months of videos have no views. You know what I mean? It's.
I know the feeling. Yeah, it happens. Oh God, man.
Yeah. So and then. I for 2 years I had less than 100 subscribers, and it was kind of fun because it was the same people, we like the same 20 people and I talking all the time. So, and it was like a little fun group of people. And then RJ from the Fourth Age, just, I was in his chat all the time, and he asked, how many comics do you guys own? And I just said, I have 55,000 comics. And he was like, what? So I went and took a picture of my comic book room and sent it to him. And then next thing you know, me and him were talking, and then he wanted to start interviewing people. So he practiced with me, and I was his first comic book interview. And then I said, you know what? I want to interview people. So I just started asking people. I had no intentions of doing it. I just wanted to talk about comic books. And next thing you know, I don't know how it happened, but I was starting to get like big names right away. You know, I think people, you know, Mike Barron's and Chuck Dixon's just wanted to be on the internet talking about their comics, and I don't think they were too choosy, you know. And then one day I got like J.M. DeMatteis, you know, I got Jim Shooter, you know, Walt Simonson, Mark Miller. So now, you know, now it's getting easier to get big names because I could boast. Yeah, I had Walt Simonson and Mark Miller. Oh, really? I want to be on your channel now.
You got Jim Shooter on at
Yeah.
one point.
Yeah, that was like a turning point. That was like, oh my God, that, you know, that made, not that I'm a big deal, but you know what I mean? That made people notice me. And then, and now I have haters. It's awesome. I've arrived. I actually have people that like make up stories about me, about how terrible I am. And that just makes me laugh because I'm like, if you watch a lot of my videos, I'm like, man, when am I going to get my detractors? You know, to use somebody else's term. It's not, now I got detractors. It's awesome.
Yeah. Because the thing I wanted to ask you was that you had a recent take that kind of blew up where you said that Comicsgate is dead. So what did you mean by that? Do you mean like the idea that Comicsgate originally was founded upon is dead? Or do you mean
now you're dragging me back into controversy? But what Arthur Miller said, you know, the playwright, he says, you know, an era, I'm sure I'm murderizing the quote, but he basically said, an era is over when all the illusions have been exhausted. What illusions of Comicsgate are still valid? Comicsgate with a customer revolt against whisper networks, backstabbing, bad comics, bad customer service. Which one of those illusions is still strong? Is Comicsgate known for customer service?
No.
Is Comicsgate known for respecting the customers? Is Comicsgate
that one varies on the creator, but largely I would say no.
Is Comicsgate are there whisper networks?
Yes.
Are they canceling? So which illusions, you know, created
by
out
of the four that you just mentioned, one of them is kind of like half true. That's pretty bad if you really look at it. All the four major ones.
So according to Arthur Miller, is Comicsgate dead?
As an idea, as a movement, yeah. No one even mentions it anymore. Remember when you said during the certain virus period, even mainstream media outlets would mention them. That doesn't happen anymore. The only people that mention Comicsgate is, well, Mark Waid, and he's mentally deranged, so you know that doesn't count for anything.
That's another controversial opinion I had. Mark Waid created Comicsgate. Mark Waid is the inventor of Comicsgate, and only Mark Waid and only Mark Waid could revoke that title. You know, like I say to people, I'm a Gentile. Why am I a Gentile? Because there's a group of people called Jewish people that created a term and called me Gentile. I can't say that I'm not a Gentile. They created the term. So only Jewish people can tell me I'm not a Gentile. And the only way to become a non-Gentile is to become one of them. So Mark Waid made me Comicsgate. Only Mark Waid could say I'm not Comicsgate anymore.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. Mm-hmm. You know, he got your boy Zach out of the mainstream and basically crowdfunded comics. Before that it was what's his name? Brian Pulido, but he was, you know, he wasn't part of any movement. He was just an independent guy. But now, you know, it's Mark Waid formulated and caused everybody to circle the wagons. So there you go. The illusions are dead.
It's just this other thing of Comicsgate was that the more you go down that rabbit hole, for people to find out its history and like who began it, there's not even a agreed upon ideal about what it was originally made for. So we say it was a customer movement.
That's fine. You know what I mean?
Some people say it was a creator movement. It's like if people don't even know the core values of what made it even a thing, that it was already on shaky ground to begin with.
It was a group of fans. It was a fan reaction to the mainstream. You know, it wasn't, and it became creators. So it was supposed to be fans. It was a fan reaction, not a creator's reaction. You know, it evolved, but that's fine too. Everything evolves. You know, like original Christianity is different. Original, like Judaism, changed like every 2,000 years. It's like a 6,000-year-old religion. And nobody's putting blood on their doorsteps anymore. You know, for Passover. You know, it's a different religion. But that's normal. But things also change, and they're not what they like. What is the ship of Achilles? Is that or Jason? I forget what it was, but it's a philosophical argument that I can't think of whose ship it is anymore. But
Jason, you can use it like this, like
Jason goes off to sail, and then a storm comes and his mast breaks, so he puts up a new mast. He replaces and then a rock hits it. And by the time he returns, every piece of wood on that ship is been replaced. Is it the same ship that left? That's normal. Things change, but at one point, can we say that that's not Jason's ship anymore, or it's going to bother me?
It's the same idea as like progressivism. It's like they believe over time things should just like naturally evolve over time, given different ideas.
That changed too, because remember, nobody's arguing about biological sex. We're talking about the gender. Everything changes.
Yeah.
At what point can we say, okay, it's not what it was? This, dinosaurs are birds now. They're not the giant reptiles that they were as a kid. You know what I mean? Things change over time.
Actually, that's true. Like a pterodactyl, would that be considered a bird or a reptile? That's weird.
They're dinosaurs. They're their own thing now. Theseus, thank you. The ship of Theseus. Thank you, Crenshaw. It's driving me crazy. The ship he went off to fight the Minotaur and came back.
Was something I know people don't like Mike Wheeler. I've got him on the show because
I don't know who that is.
He's a crazy guy, let's just say. But he told me this thing on a podcast that I had him on, and he had said, why does Comicsgate need to exist when indie comic book as a community is already one big community? Why do you need like an in-group in indie comics when the whole notion of being indie is being independent? It sounds like it's just a glorified friend group than anything. It's not like what Image Comics was, because Image Comics actually made a dent and changed things. People always forget that when it comes to this stuff. Image Comics legitimately changed how things went. Comicsgate's not changed anything. Actually, they're more of a laughing stock than anything. Actually, now it's even worse than a laughing stock. People just hate it. Its guts.
That's what I said. Like, if you listen to Diversity in Comics, your boy Zach.
Mike, I'm not crazy.
Yes, is that who you're talking about?
Yeah. Mike's
sorry, Indie Comics Outliers. I don't know who you are. No offense. I can't possibly claim it. But your boy Zach made a name for himself by going after like Gail Simone and her bad writing. And we reacted to that. Well, guess what? Your boy Zach's comics are terrible, and Gail Simone's writing the X-Men. So what exactly did Comicsgate achieve? It's sorry guys, it's over. And I know people are going to attack me and I'm going to be made fun of, but I was a proud card carrying one of the original OGs. I was giving your boy Zach inside information when I was the electrician over at Marvel Comics when other people were still working for DC. So I don't want to hear crap like that.
Because that's the thing is, you would hope it would have turned into what Image Comics was. Image
Comics was a business, with a, you know what I mean? Comicsgate is a philosophy, but
two different things, right? Yeah. Got a point there.
But it's not a fan reaction anymore, and it's not changing anything. And for the most part, it's ignored. Do you honestly think that Dan Panosian even talks about Comicsgate? You know what I mean? Like mention any, I had talks with Tom DeFalco, and he never even heard of it. You know what I mean? This is a guy who ran freaking Marvel Comics, and he's like, what's Comicsgate? He doesn't know.
Oh shit! Yeah, that's the other thing is, when people criticize you calling it a fan movement, people are so beyond stupid they can't jumble two thoughts in their heads, guys. Creators themselves were fans before they started creating. It literally was a fan movement initially, if you really think about it.
They say that Roy Thomas was like the first fanboy to get hired and work for comics. And I'll say Denny O'Neil, when he died, that was like the end of comics. Denny, for those of you who don't know, Denny O'Neil was the legendary editor, for like Batman during like Batman year one, the Chuck Dixon years and Alan Grant years, and Bane breaking the backs. All the stories from Batman movies that we see today were like during Denny O'Neil's 20-something year tenure as he called it, the custodian of Batman. That guy was a lifer. When he, after him, it's tourists. I hate that term, and I've been using a lot of terms I don't like, but it's people who see Marvel as a stepping stone to advance them to something else. Denny O'Neil, as to the best of my knowledge, didn't want to leave comics to become a screenwriter. He wanted comics. Roy Thomas, he that guy probably is going to die of an illness that they're going to realize had something to do with pulp paper. You know what I mean? This guy was it comics his whole life. Jack Kirby, he wanted to do other things too, but he was alive for comics. Stan Lee was always embarrassed by comics. I don't care what everybody says, but he was a lifer. His whole life was comics. And now, who's in, like, come on, man. You don't think if Heather Antos got the chance, she would jump to Netflix tomorrow?
Yeah, that's another illusion too, is that a lot of them thought that they were gonna move into this point where a bunch of the studios wanted to have like their own superhero properties because the MCU was very big.
MCU made comic books super cool. Your grandmother knows who freaking the Scarlet Witch is. You know what I mean? Your grandmother knows how Captain America got his powers.
Remember when they tried doing that with Bloodshot? That failed. Remember when there was fucking hell. Walking Dead, Invincible, The Boys, and the MCU are probably the biggest ones. Because I love Mark Miller. People know I love Mark Miller, but Jupiter's Legacy on Netflix was the trash. And I have Jupiter's Legacy books. I like them. They're not that bad. They're pretty solid. But Netflix screwed them over on Jupiter's Legacy.
I didn't watch any.
The show was abysmal. Oh God, it was bad. But the thing that Mark Miller got out of it, he got the bag. That's all that really matters at the end of the day. He now is so rich he could just write comics because he just loves doing it. And everyone in the industry got jealous of him. But people factor in, no one got jealous of Robert Kirkman getting the deal for The Walking Dead. I'll tell you this. I imagine Robert Kirkman made more money doing Invincible at the animated series than for fucking AMC for cable television. There's no way. Like, Invincible was paid off way more than Walking Dead.
Phenomenon.
It was. Yeah.
I'm not going to count other people's money, but the problem with Walking Dead is they just lost the plot after a while. I really like
comics was old pros wanting to do something for themselves. Comicsgate is fired pros trying to do something for themselves. Mine doesn't. My grandma's dead. Screw that. Oh my God, Mike, you're insane.
But you know what I'm saying?
Mike, you're getting old.
My wife is a normie who doesn't read comic books, and she knows who the High Evolutionary is, because you know what I mean. Like comics.
Tell her about the Living Tribunal. Her brain will just explode.
Somebody at work asked me about the Living Tribunal because they watched the Doctor Strange movie, and they're like, he has the wand of the Living Tribunal. What does that mean, John? And I had to explain it, and he didn't really care too much. But you know what I mean? Like, they're cool now. Comics are cool, and people like cool things when they're cool because they're cool, and that attracted a lot of people who were just like, we're gonna get into this now. Like I remember, I'm from Long Island. Maybe before you were born, probably. The Islanders, they called it the Dynasty. What do they win? Like 5 Stanley Cups in a row. My mother's screaming, "Go Islanders! Go!" She never watched a hockey game in her life. Now she's wearing a jersey, screaming and yelling because it was fun. And my whole family was into it. My mom just wanted to be part of the cool group, and then the Islanders stopped. And she never watched a hockey game ever since. You know what I mean? That's what everybody in America, the world, was doing with the MCU. Oh, it's exciting. It's fun. And I don't blame them. It is exciting. It is fun. Comic books are cool. Comic book movies, Marvel MCU movies were cool for so long, and everybody got into it. But now,
crazy, man. The polar reaction was the MCU was doing a lot of things good, while DC had the easiest layup right there to do it with them. Easiest prime. Yeah, they just shat themselves so hard. You can't
what works for Batman does not work for Superman. They're too.
No one understands that. No one gets that. They'll never do it, and it's so crazy that if they had just taken the time, like Kevin Feige did with Jon Favreau and RDJ, they could have had something like that. No, but they hired the guy that did Watchmen. I've never read Watchmen or watched the movie. I have Watchmen over there. I will read it eventually. They took the guy that did Watchmen and like, you know what? Now you can make a Superman movie. These people are stupid. They're legitimately dumb.
No.
Who thinks the guy that does Watchmen could do a Superman movie? Those are two different tones. If you know who Rorschach is.
I'm going to say this. And Snyder Bros are crazy. I had one guy, I said, I don't like Snyder films. And one guy was like, can we still be friends? I'm like, yeah, I don't give a crap. You know what I mean? Like, we can like different things. But I don't think Zack Snyder likes comic books. I think he likes the idea of comic books. Like, I would love to sit down with Zack Snyder and talk comics with them and be like, what do you really know? You know, what you know,
that might be literally a 5-minute conversation.
You know,
can you ask him why he chose to adapt the Dark Knight Returns?
Because it was popular.
He did, and he said himself word for word that suit that is in BVS is not super powered. Well, guys, you understand where I'm coming from. If it's not powered, how was he punching Superman? It would literally break if it hits his face. If he doesn't even understand fundamentals like that, then he
had a powered suit and he was carrying around kryptonite. You know, that's the only way Batman can. And I love that whole fight. Batman beats Superman. Well, you know what? A Girl Scout with kryptonite can beat Superman.
Yeah. Also, the context of that fight, because I have Dark Knight Returns. If Superman gets up pretty quickly after he shot him with that, he was ready to go again. It's more like, did he win or did he just caught him off guard to get out of the situation? It's more like he kind of caught him off guard.
Another controversial thing that'll be clipped and talked about. I don't like the Dark Knight Returns. I never liked it. I didn't like it when it came out. Hey, can I just thought it was very disrespectful to Superman. I love Superman, and in no universe is Superman the government stooge that's just going to go and, you know, beat people up. You know, I just thought it was disrespect. Like, but I like the Watchmen because those were Alan Moore's toys. He could break his own toys. I don't like Frank Miller breaking other people's toys. I thought the Dark Knight Return. I didn't particularly like the art, and I just
that's crazy.
I didn't particularly like it.
Don't tell Mark Miller that. He'll choke you. He loved that book when it came out.
I think we did talk about that. I think I told him. But
oh gosh, no. I'll never ask you this. Who do you think is the most overrated writer in comic book history? Since you've read a lot of people's work, besides EVS, because he's obviously the best.
Well, he's not known for writing.
That's even worse.
Who's the best writer? Overrated writer?
Yeah.
I don't know. I was gonna say Fabian Nicieza because, like, he just, first off, I don't like him. Second off, he was nasty to me. But third off, like, it just seems like he takes other people's stuff and just works competently on it. But, like, I don't know. To be fair, I don't really know.
Oh gosh, because where are you at now when it comes to your own comic book series? Because you had all this history with Marvel and DC, Image, all these people. Now you're at the point where you're like, fuck it, I'll just do it myself. You pull the Thanos. So how did it go crowdfunding your first comic campaign? Were you worried it wasn't going to get funded? Or so now that it's over, you can finally go through the process, recap what happened now.
So I made a comic book called Heroic Tales. And I had, when I started my channel, I just wanted to talk to people about comics because I was moved to a new town. COVID was going on. And, you know, I was like, this is really the only way to talk comics with people. And next thing you know, I'm interviewing people. And then next thing you know, I'm seeing other people that I've talked to make comics, you know, and I'm like, oh, wow, I can make comics. So I always wanted to write comics. But as a kid, I always wanted to write the Fantastic Four. That was the comic I wanted to write. I like that they're family. I like that Reed Richards is a father figure, contrary to everybody else in the world, the Generation Z. My dad was a wonderful guy. I had a happy childhood. I have 7 brothers and sisters. My parents were always married. You know, there was, you know what I mean? We were a happy kid, and I liked that family dynamic. So I was like, one day, just as a joke, I was just like, I'm going to make up a superhero called the Patriarch, and he's going to be, you know, toxic masculinity. And then I started thinking, no comic book character made to own anybody else ever has lasting quality. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm going to make up a character just to rub it in somebody else's face, those characters, that's funny, but 6 months, 7 months, 8 months later, nobody remembers them. So, and then I started thinking about and I started to really like the concept of he's masculinity. He's positive masculinity. So he's a dad. He's a protector. You know, he's before he became a superhero, he was an EMT. You know, he's just a good guy. He's a husband. You know, he loves his wife. So I just like, okay, so he's the patriarch. He protects his city. He loves his wife. He loves his kids. You know, he's everything that you would like if you could be like the superhero, like to me, he's like Superman is like a child's wish fulfillment superhero, whereas the Patriarch, I think, is like an adult's wish fulfillment. I got a loving wife, I got great kids, I got cool superpowers, I got a nice physique, I'm flying around a cool city. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to be I just want to make a comic book like that. And I also wanted it to be good. Like, he's not the boys, he's not sinister, he's not cheating on his wife, and he's not like secretly gonna overthrow the government, and and just out for abusing his powers. So I wanted to make like a return to like Bronze Age Marvel. And then I saw Renzo's artwork, and I'm like, that's the art that I pictured in my head when I was thinking about these comics. So I asked him, we did it. He had like a bunch of commitments. So the first issue took a long time because he's got to do his other commitment. But now, I think we're going to launch issue 2 in January. We're already about 50% done. So I paid out of pocket. So
it's another thing people don't understand. I know there's outliers in there in the indie comic world that you're in, because essentially you're in kind of like the underground basement indie level, where like it's basically wild west if you're going to get funded or not. A lot of people don't get this. It's like there's not a whole lot of money doing this. I don't know where that comes from. There are people that do make a decent amount. There are.
Yeah.
I know Mike's done it. I know Mike S. Miller has done it. I know Eric.
Yeah, these are guys who had a reputation. I'm a guy with less than 2,000 subs on a YouTube channel. You know what I mean? I had no illusions that I was going to get rich. So like, I mean, right here on Fund My Comic, I got 238 backers. Some people would laugh at that, but I'm like, wow, I got 238 backers. I also got another 63 on Kickstarter. You know what I mean? So I got over 300 backers, then a couple more on Indiegogo. So altogether, between all platforms, I made $8,000. That's nothing to sneeze at for a first-time guy. But what I did was I paid for it out of pocket. So every week I paid Renzo. He drew. I paid it. So by the time I've had this campaign, my comic was about 80% done. And I still didn't understand. I didn't know I had to get pre-press. I didn't understand I had to get it reformatted for you know what I mean? It was a real excruciating learning curve, but it's fun. I fulfilled it myself, sitting in this chair, putting in boxes. You know what I mean? I can't complain. I still have, I overprinted, so I got a bunch of issues over here. So if anybody's interested in my comic, you got a copy. Did you read it yet?
Good Lord. What did you ship it in a box like normally? Like,
well, I forget. Did you get a pint glass or did you just get a copy?
Did you ship it in something like this?
Yeah.
Okay, so I might have it. The lady's been bringing some of my mail. I have no clue.
Oh, that's right. Your mail gets sent someplace else because you don't want the
black people touching it. Yeah. Mostly black people. There's a lot of blacks around here. So, like, I know you, and I have to. Yeah, I sent you my updated address. Yeah, I know you guys sent it out. Do I know if I have it? I have to ask. I'm pretty sure.
Let me know if you didn't get it, because anybody watching this, if you bought my comic, except for the guy who bought it yesterday, everybody who bought my comic should have it. If you don't have it by now, unless you live in Canada, they ain't getting any mail. But you know what I mean? Now is the time to say, listen, I think there might be a problem. So let me know. But anyway, this comic was going to happen even if I only had one backer, because I paid for it you know what I mean? So by the time the campaign launched, I was a couple of grand into the comic. So that's why I put the funding level at only $1,000, because like, even if I collected $1,000, it was okay. I'm getting $1,000 back out of the thousands.
Yeah, you got a factor in, as what you just said. You sunk in $2,000 initially up front. A lot of people wouldn't even be able to even do that alone.
Well,
and I tell people this too, because you know how a lot of people have their funding goals set at like $500.
Right,
guys, really factor it into your brain. Does a comic book cost $500? It costs about at least $400 to get like a decent artist to do 24 pages.
Well, let me say this. I did about 8,000. I'm just making the numbers easy for the math. It cost me 2,000 to ship. Okay. So that now I'm down to 6,000. Cost me 2,000 to print. So now 4,000. Do you guys honestly think it only cost me $4,000 to make this comic?
Oh,
40 pages.
Maybe broke even.
You know what I mean? So if I sell out of everything that I printed, I'll probably make a profit. But I'm looking at a big stack of comics on that table right there. But I have a bunch. When issue 2 launches, you could still get issue 1. So the reviews have been pretty good. People saying it's really good. I'm proud.
Are you planning on going to like conventions or at all to sell them? Or
I would love to. The problem is I got a full-time job, and
is it worth it? Like taking the vacation time off to go to a convention,
right?
To the table. Yeah.
Okay. I'm an electrician. Electricians do pretty good. So for me to take time off, I'm losing a couple of grand right there. Just
yeah.
And then I got to fly, and then I got to go. So, unless I'm going to make $10,000 at that convention, unless there's a weekend one right down. There's a couple of in around here that I would do, but I would like to go to Heroes Con because that's where everybody goes just to meet people. Yeah, and I'll bring a couple of boxes of comics. But what am I going to do? Plop them down on your table that you paid for and sell my comic? So I don't know. But I would like to. I would like to go to a convention sooner or later. My plan is to get like 6 issues and then like maybe go to Diamond and do like a comic book store edition that goes like through Diamond and distributed into comic book stores. Do a collected trade paperback. Maybe go on like Amazon and like print. I don't, because I do like it. It's a good comic. RJ Williams, you got a copy, right? What did you think?
AK ain't that bad. What's up, RJ? How you doing, man?
I hope I could do, like, my goal is 300 backers on Fund My Comic, because I'm sticking with Fund My Comic. Indiegogo, no way am I going back. It's difficult to work with, and I think I got like 10 backers. Indiegogo, they shadow ban.
I don't think they shadow ban you. I think it's just their algorithm is so bad. Comics are so low on the totem pole. They're not searched enough nor typed up. They just don't care. It's not worth it. Because there's no way you'd be shadow banned. You don't have any controversies. You've done nothing essentially wrong. You don't talk about politics, really.
Right.
Now you can prove in your case the algorithm just sucks, honestly.
And like I forget who it was. I think it was RJ for the Fourth Age. He started doing some research. Like the address for Indiegogo is like I'm not even joking. It's like a storefront above a laundromat in some like Cincinnati or something. It's like so shady. There's no accountability. Like I tell the story a lot, and I messed up. I messed up 3 times. 3 times I called Luke Stone in a crazy lunatic fury. I seem like a calm guy, but I was like, the day I launched, I was like, and Luke's like, okay, he's a pastor, so he's Mr. Calm. And he's like, and then finally I'm like, why are you giving me small talk? Why don't we fix it? He's like, John, the problem's fixed. I'm just talking now because I'm like, oh, okay. And he fixed it while we were talking, and then like a week later, I missed, you got to use Stripe as the, all 3 of the platforms use Stripe. So I'm not getting any money. I messed up setting up my Stripe account where, you know what I mean? I can't get any money. So yeah, I know I fronted the money, but I still need that $8,000, Mm-hmm. So I'm like, what the F is going on? I'm calling up Luke and he's like, I don't know what you did. You invented this problem. So he called up Stripe and we had a 3-way conversation, and he's like, John, you're crazy right now. Please just shut your mouth and I'll fix your problem. And I'm like, okay. And we were on the phone for like 2 hours and he sorted everything out. Now, the reason why I'm telling you this story is, could you do that with Kickstarter? Could you do that with Indiegogo? But, and the guy's only taking 2%. He didn't charge me. He didn't bill me. He took the responsibility as the CEO of his company to make sure his customer I'm loyal, man.
Yeah, that's the thing, is this freaking tribalistic way that people view these things of like, no, I'm just going to be only dedicated to Indiegogo, like waving like these hashtag for teams and stuff like that. Like the only reason to be there essentially is that you just want to be on as many platforms as you can to get as much money. Now, Kickstarter, the reason why you want to set the goal lower is because you don't get paid out unless you actually complete the funding goal. Indiegogo does not function that way. That's the only reason why I think people like them more, is because you can get the money up front without having to actually reach the entire goal and go in demand afterwards. For My Comic, you know, the thing with that one is it's not as new. It's actually newer compared to these two, so it doesn't have that inbuilt fan base yet. And this one is just for comics. Kickstarters are like technology, like new refrigerators or new socks or some bullshit like that, you know?
So I
Luke's doing a good job. I like Luke a lot.
I did Luke. I dig Luke. He's a good guy. You know, I hired him to do my pre-press. He was freaking fast and everything. So he's a good guy. Very talented. He's a comic book guy himself. He draws. He loves comics. What more do you want to ask for basically a business partner? That's kind of what he is. He's my business partner now, you know, in the real sense of the word. And he's a good guy, you know. And let's be realistic. He's in a wheelchair. So if he messes me up, I could probably take him out, right? That was a joke that nobody laughed at. All right.
Goodness gracious. It's like trying to 1v1 Charles Xavier. Oh God.
But all kidding aside, Luke is a great guy. He listens to criticism. He asked for, you know, what should we do next? And he's like, that's a good idea. Let's do that. You know what I mean? This is why I can't do that because of legal reasons, stuff like that. He wants to improve. I think in a couple of years, Luke's going to be like a bigwig in comic books. You know what I mean? He's going to be a player.
He also does his own stuff too. For Arrow Comics is like his improvement of some of his friends.
So I went on Kickstarter. I didn't do too bad on Kickstarter, and I'm not big enough that I could leave money on the table. So I'm going to do Fund My Comic, and then maybe a couple weeks later for issue number 2, I'll also do a Kickstarter because I made $1,000. I can't not accept $1,000. I'm not that big yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm done with Indiegogo. Indiegogo was awful.
Because that's the thing when it comes to like Kickstarter and Indiegogo and Fund My Comic is, you know, there's people that'll run campaigns on all three at the same time, and some of the campaigns on Fund My Comic just get nobody, just no backers at all. So you can imagine if you're a bigger creator, it's hesitant to just go there and be all in on there when half of your audience might not go there because you know people are very stationary. They don't really like moving to different places.
Who wants to sign up for another platform? You know.
Yeah.
Here's the thing too is, you know, I'm a construction worker. All the guys at work like, you're making a comic book, that's so cool, you know. And I was like, yeah, you got to go to this website, type in www. And they're just like, can't I just give you money for the comic? So I made cards to give to the guys at work with the QR code. Scan this code, takes you right to the website. And then they were like, I got to put in a credit card. When do I get the comic? Oh, you'll get it in 6 months. And they're like, come to me when you have a physical comic. You know, normally people don't understand crowdfunding. Like, you know, so, you know, I work with guys that are like, Amazon. What's Amazon? You know, they literally don't know, don't care. They, you know what I mean? When they need stuff, they go to the store and buy it. Some of the guys like, I don't use credit cards. You know,
so I can understand that. I don't have credit cards either. Credit cards are fucking, oh my God, that's another discussion in itself.
Mark Millar said I was the first crowdfunded comic he ever backed. You know, This is a millionaire comic book guy. You know, he really doesn't even understand Comicsgate. You know what I mean? He's right now he's the only rock star in comics. You know, so.
You know, it's crazy because comics are already such a niche that a lot of people just really never understand how big the audience you can actually reach. I think people just think we're in that time period where, you know, how like a lot of those vintage Magic the Gathering cards are going up in value, like the Yu-Gi-Oh cards were and Pokemon cards. People thought there was going to be some infinite growth there. It's like, no, nerd things have always had a cap to it. That's why for all these movie production companies like Warner Brothers and Paramount and Disney, there's a reason why they started doing animation for this stuff and movies, because it's much more easier to make a Spider-Man live action movie and get them in to liking Spider-Man than having them read comics.
Well, I'll say that everybody, well, first off, let me answer RJ Williams. How did someone survive 2020 without knowing what Amazon is? The guy I'm talking about is a survivalist. He literally hunts and fishes and grows food on his property. So
I'm not messing with that guy.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like he's got generators and everything like that, you know. So yeah, he actually has a plan to escape when the zombies attack. And I'm not joking. I'm probably saying too much, but he has weapons stashed throughout the state. This guy's hardcore, man. Like, and he looks at me. He's like, "You don't?" I'm like, you know, he makes that, what's his name, from Parks and Recreation look like an amateur, like Ron Swanson, you know. But what was I going to say? About I forgot. I lost my track of. But whatever. I don't
White
know.
people have bad credit. MSK doesn't have credit. Like, I do need a credit card eventually. There will be a time where I have it because there's things that I've wanted where I can't even apply for them because I don't have credit. So I have to do like their other payment plan or some shit, which is essentially the same thing. Dude, I couldn't even apply for a fucking rent to own because I don't have a credit card. It's like you can look at my PayPal paying for payments. I pay everything on time. Literally, money goes out of my account. I have to pay it on time. I pay everything on time. I'm never late with
I
stuff.
don't like to have bills over my head. So I'm so mad because when I got to the car accident, I totaled the car that was totally paid for and it would have lasted another 10 years. Now I'm paying monthly for a new freaking car and I hate it.
Well, at least you have new technology finally in your car. You can like play music out loud. You can hear people's podcast out loud. I bet you had an old like Toyota Corolla or something that was like borderline, like one of those probably like 2000s car actually. You bought what year car did you buy?
It was a 2015.
Okay, so now you can do Bluetooth. See, you're getting with the times, John. This is what the times are. You can listen to rap music in your car.
I bought a new car for my wife. The insurance gave me $6,000 to, for the car. So I took that $6,000, threw it to a new car, and I'm paying the rest. And then I took her older car, but her old car was like a 2018.
Goodness, man. Then at least your neck's not broken anymore. At least,
my neck is still broken.
Oh God.
It takes like a year or two to heal, but it's at the I could
also since you're ancient, tackle on like 6
more months. If you don't know, I got to a car accident and literally broke my neck right like 2 weeks after the campaign launched. So I'm doing promotion videos with. I had to shave my beard off because I was in a neck brace, so I look like MODOK,
Oh, also keep in mind you managed to get your comic book campaign done while your neck was broken. Well, other people can't even get out one book at all. Yours can take 4 years either.
I also had 6 hernias. I had a hernia surgery, so this was a rough freaking year for me. Next year, let's stay out of the hospital. No hospital.
Let's not try falling asleep before you drive home, man. Just take a nap, literally in your car. If you got to just take a nap, man. Because you said the reason why you got into you like dozed off a little bit.
It's not that low blood sugar. It was January 17th. It was freaking hot at work. And I normally take the train, but that day I drove in because my coworker was giving me an air conditioner. So I had an air conditioner. I drove to work, put the air conditioner in the trunk, and I left. I was leaving work early because that's the day of my talk with Mark Miller. So I went because he could only talk at 2:00 because of the time difference between Scotland and New York. So I told my boss, this is a big deal. So I was going to leave early. And then I was like, you know what? I'm leaving early, but the train, I'm going to be sitting at the station for an hour. So I'm going to drive in. And then I was like, since I'm driving in, give me the air conditioner. So, and then it was so freaking hot. And I just didn't eat. I didn't eat lunch. I was like, I'll go home and I'll eat lunch. Why eat a freaking sandwich when I could be home, have dinner, have lunch with so I didn't eat anything. It was so freaking hot. And all of a sudden I just saw like tunnel vision. And I just went like this. And as I went like this, I turned the wheel this way. And then I leaned forward and hit the accelerator right into a tree.
Oh my God, man. Oof.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
My generator has USB plugins for sex toys. Mike, you are dementally insane. Oh my God. Do you have any hope for James Gunn's Superman movie coming up in 2025? Do you have any plans to watch it? I know you did like Man of Steel, but at least you can see that James Gunn is not.
I hated Man of Steel because they fundamentally got Superman wrong. I don't have any hope. I have no feelings whatsoever. So I have lowered my expectations about all forms of media to about this, so that I can only be pleasantly surprised.
And even at that point, they still might. Well, what's that mean? My expectations were low, but holy fuck. Oh God! Back in the day, for me when I was growing up, if someone didn't know something, we just called them posers.
Yeah, posers. Yeah, I was into the punk, and then my friend worked at my friend's wife now. Back when they were dating, she worked at a record store, and she'd be like, "Yeah, some poser Instapunk came in today." That was her term for like a kid who's just like, "I just got into punk," like. And she had like a list of like, here's your 10 essential punk records. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
like, oh, I'm punk now,
So for me, when it comes to like James Gunn Superman, at least he has some fundamental.
Looks good. I like that he's sitting there with Crypto. He's got a bright costume.
That was cute. I know people ragging over that. That was cute. Looking at them together. People are heartless, man.
I guess now that you're making me think about it, I guess I am hopeful. But DC movies, I saw the Batman trilogy. They were good. I saw the Wonder Woman movie. I didn't see Aquaman and Man of Steel. So I didn't see the Justice League or I didn't see any of the. But so RJ William wants to know how they got Superman wrong.
Well, I hope Clark Kent. I mean, because in Man of Steel, the one thing that I'll never forgive about that movie, I bet you can say it's fucking nerd shit if you really want to. He can save his dad, his adopted dad, and he doesn't.
Well, there you go. So there's two things that really, really bother me about the movie. Actually, more than two things.
Yeah.
You just said is he just stood there and watched his father die. Ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen. That's totally wrong. Second, when young Clark saved the school bus full of children, the father says, "I wish he didn't."
And he said, "Well, what was I supposed to do? Let him die?" And he said, "Maybe."
Yeah, the real Clark Kent would have been like, "You did good, Clark," and then Clark would be like, "Yeah, but now people are we'll deal with that when it comes."
He had an inherent good about him, and his
inherently. And then the next thing,
shit on him. Yeah.
The next thing is Superman lands in the middle of Metropolis for the first time. Even if you don't know that, it's supposed to be Superman's first appearance, first time in public. Superman is an angelic figure. When he lands on the ground, you don't know who he is, but you're like, oh my God, this is great. It's almost like he has like a Mandela about him that just radiates goodness. Like, if you're afraid of Superman, you're making the wrong movie. Like, even though it was supposed to be the first time he's on the planet, like look at the Christopher Reeves movie. Nobody saw him. And then like, man, that's a bad outfit. People were into Superman when he first showed up on the scene. In this movie, Superman shows up on the scene. They're afraid of him. They want to put him in handcuffs. That ain't a Superman movie. Just make the Homelander. That's what you wanted to make. If if I'm making a Superman movie and it's his origin and he's debuting for the first time, it's like and people are like, what's going on? That guy's saving people. Oh my God. They're taking out the camera phones and taking pictures because he's inspiring. He's not fear inspired,
For me, I don't think they've made a good Superman movie since Superman 2. I think Superman 3 sucks, Superman 4 sucks. Superman Returns is also just as bad. Superman Returns leaves planet Earth for 5 years. He's sent here to protect Earth, and he just leaves it for 5 years. That's not Superman to me. Well, that could just the whole premise is trash.
He's a deadbeat dad. I know he didn't know he had a kid, but he's Superman. He should have known. Like he knows he
left for 5 years.
He knows he had sex with Lois Lane, and those super little gametes ain't gonna stop.
Gosh,
you know what I mean? So they just made him, and then to top it off, it was just boring.
It's just boring. It's literally not like, man. I remember when I was a kid that was a big movie coming out
by Harold and Kumar.
He literally went to that kryptonite formation that Lex Luthor put on that island or whatever. Because I was just thinking to make a giant kryptonite rock so Superman can get to it. People veteran, he doesn't have to go to that. He can literally fly in the air, shoot it down. He's fast enough to save everyone on there. He went there, got stabbed, got thrown out, and then pushed. What are we doing? Movies, Returns is just trash. That movie sucks so much ass.
I always say that, like, okay, you pull, Superman, Batman comes out and pulls out the kryptonite. Yeah, and then Superman flies away, and from 6 miles away, he hits it with heat vision, and then comes back and takes out Batman. In no world does Superman ever lose to Batman. I don't. Unless Batman,
Batman's only beaten him in non-canon books. Right. Superman's always beaten him in main canon storyline. Actually, what's crazy? Batman has actually never killed the Joker ever. The only time he killed the Joker was when Superman envisioned him doing it in Injustice. He envisioned what Batman would do to him. That's actually crazy how Joker's literally never died.
I hate the Joker, so I wouldn't mind Batman killing him.
Just imagine that he's never died in any iteration ever.
He's protected by
plot armor.
They got to sell lunchboxes. You know what I mean? They got to sell T-shirts.
Well, I do. That's what the anime made guy says. Plot armor that the main hero always has to win. So that's plot armor for Joker to live this long.
I mean, like the Punisher never fights the same guy twice, but Batman, you know, they put a revolving door on the.
Yeah.
But it's part of Batman. So I accept that Batman's not going to kill. And like Chuck Dixon says, fundamentally, Batman is a guy on lunchboxes and underoos. So you don't want him to be a murderer. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I get that.
I just found that Bryan Singer, even though he did the X-Men movies that people like, went and did Superman, made a plot that was so inconceivably bad. Like, I'm thinking to myself, people told me this. I had a podcast a long time ago. They're like, but he left and he came back. Guys, he was sent here to protect the human race and be among us. Him leaving for 5 years, there was crime that would have happened.
In Man of Steel, he was sent to conquer and rule.
Yeah. Also, the whole General Zod killing thing didn't really bother me.
I got the movies mixed up.
Oh, it's fine. You know, like him killing Zod doesn't bother me only because Zod's not a human. He's an alien. It's not really. I get to me that's not really the same thing. That's another problem with Man of Steel. There's no kryptonite. So how would he stop a Kryptonian then? He would have to kill them. That's why Zack Snyder doesn't understand Superman. He's not a good director.
The Phantom Zone, you know.
They didn't even use that.
Right.
Yeah. That's why Man of Steel sucked. Man of Steel's not good. Outside of like the action, it's not good. It's
first of all, scenes. I got it.
Fight scenes. Yeah,
pretty cool. You know, the special effects were good. Even in Superman Returns when he saved the airplane, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, but I just don't want to see Lex Luthor, scary real estate agent, ever again.
My favorite Lex Luthor has always been Michael Rosenbaum and Gene Hackman. Those two were amazing. Holy shit. I don't know how Nicholas Holt's going to do. He's going to be the new Lex Luthor. Hopefully he's not like Jesse Eisenberg, because that was
I didn't see it. What movie was that? I don't even know.
He was BVS. He was Lex Luthor BVS. Holy shit, that was terrible.
I think this guy might be because I think this guy's got like the swagger that you need to portray a normal human who has the hubris to think he could fight Superman. And I think Nicholas Holt could pull off that hubris and that swag. You know, he's a cool guy, you know. So if Lex Luthor has to be a cool guy, and I'm sorry, Kevin Spacey is a creepy guy. He's not a cool guy. Gene Hackman is a cool guy.
Lex Luthor has some level of creepiness to him, a little bit, just a tiny bit, but it's not like the way he was doing it so cringe, man. He was maniac, like he would just go retarded in scenes, just stupidly. The part where he's just laughing at Lois Lane. No, it's in the scene where he captured Lois Lane and he noticed that Superman had a kid, he was just retarded laughing. Oh my god, that was so fucking cringe.
Who's this kid's father? Yeah.
I was if you go back and watch the Superman Returns official trailer back in the day, that first trailer really is good. It has the theme song, it builds you up, and
that's what they do. They hire an outside to get. And I gotta say, I like what's his name, Brandon Routh, but he didn't look like Superman to me. I know he looked like Christopher Reeve, but like when you're making a movie and you're just like, I just want to make it exactly like somebody else's movie, then why make the movie? Make it your own. Like, I'm going to cover a song and I want to make it sound exactly like the Beatles. I'm going to do A Hard Day's Night exactly like the Beatles. Then why cover it? Make it your own. You know, make it interesting. Can I address Zach Tan some person rather? I think Batman is too overrated, too godlike.
I know Batman is careful, but it's amazing more people don't die in fights by accident. For me, when it comes to things, I just use my suspension of disbelief. I mean, we know they're not going to kill them off.
Right. When Batman swings across the street and kicks a guy in the back of the neck, that guy's dead.
Yeah, you know, and keep in mind, because people did this a lot with Batman. They're like, well, if he's jumping down from like those domes you see that load in like cargo for like airplanes and stuff, they're like, well, how is he landing on the ground and his feet aren't breaking? Guys, keep in mind, the suit is able to do that. I mean, he's rich enough to buy materials to make a suit where if he landed on the ground, it won't kill him. It's that simple, right? But the notion that he can beat Superman is pretty crazy. Because if he can beat Superman, just ask people this as a next response: if he can beat Superman, can he beat Doomsday? No, Doomsday would actually just murder him to death. Right. He wouldn't even stop. If he can be Superman, he can't be it's kind of nonsense.
Yeah, well, Doomsday doesn't have a weakness to kryptonite. In every scenario where he throws kryptonite at him, you think Superman would just like not stand next to Batman anymore. It's like,
do you know what? Do you know what? Why people don't know comics, man? The reason why people can think of Batman doing that stuff is because of that Justice League Doom animated movie, and it takes place from that Tower of Babel story that Mark Waid wrote. And people forget this: Batman's plans were never to kill his friends. That's a common misconception. His plans were to immobilize them if they ever get taken over by mind control. His plan, right. He can't kill them. He knows that his plans are only to immobilize them. Ra's al Ghul made it so that he would kill them.
I love his plan to take out the Flash, cut his legs so he bleeds to death. Jeez, a million bad
guys. Ra's al Ghul is crazy. Ra's al Ghul is mentally insane. I believe it. That's crazy.
When some person says I think Batman is too overrated, too godlike, I absolutely agree. I've been saying this for a while now that I think that there's 4 Batmans. There's the Golden Age Batman that was like a detective. There was a Silver Age Batman that was just Looney Tunes, crazy Batman. That DC.
Did you like the Adam West Batman?
Yeah, that I kind of put him in the Silver Age Batman.
Oh, okay.
But I'm talking about comics anyway. And then there was what I call the Detective Batman, and that's like the Denny O'Neil. And there's some blending over with the Neil Adams Silver Age, but the Detective Batman, and then Bat God. And the Bat God, like you said, Grant Morrison and Mark Waid, they kind of Mr. Solutions. The greatest superpower in the world is not having superpower.
It's just so
I
crazy.
Can't stand that.
It's just so crazy how an animated movie made people's brains just lose it when it comes to Batman. And people ask, like, his plans literally are not going to kill them. They're literally temporary solutions, because even he knows he can't. Ultimately, he knows he can't kill them. Superman, if he wants you dead, he's going to kill you. Obviously, like, Injustice proves that. Like, if he wants to have the entire world under his thumb, he can do that. He's just that powerful of a character, Right. What's another thing that throws me off when it comes to these kind of. I know you never watched Dragon Ball Z. The Goku Superman debates are just, I can't do them.
Yeah, I don't know that I don't know those shows.
God, gosh, man. What's the most one that gets people? I think Batman is better suited when you do fights against like Captain America, Daredevil, Lady Shiva. Actual fighters. I don't know why people think Daredevil can't, like, Daredevil would be destroyed by Batman. Daredevil's blind, guys. He's blind.
Yeah, Batman, but he has all those super senses. I think Daredevil.
That's what's bullshit. They play into that death stereotype, man. If you're is all your senses work, is that improving?
Yeah, but he literally does. He has super senses.
He's blind. He can't even see his dick. He's gonna beat Batman? That's crazy. Holy crap. Like Batman versus Elektra, stuff like that is good for Batman. Like actual
I think Batman works best when he's saving people.
Do you think Daredevil can beat like Deathstroke then?
What's that?
Do you think Daredevil can beat Deathstroke?
That would be a good fight.
Or like Batman versus Punisher is not. That's someone Batman. Punisher definitely could.
Punisher has actually a kill rule. Unless Punisher snipes him from a distance, once they get into hand to hand, I think Batman's going to beat Punisher. But I would love to see that comic. That would be a fun comic.
I actually have a Batman Ultimate guide, because I got into comics by buying the guides and stuff. There's so they went from the thing you said was Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age. After the 90s boom, do you know what they call it in official syndication? They call it the Dark Age.
Yeah,
they call it the Dark Age. If that's not the most ironies of ironies there. They could call it the Dark Age from fucking the year 2000. I don't know what you call this, like the modern age now, probably since like 2012.
Well, the modern age, back in the 90s, we said the modern age. The modern age is just
crazy. That's actually insane. Like how it just subconsciously just dubs the Dark Age because they didn't know what the fuck was gonna happen after everything.
So I don't know. I agree. I liked when Batman, he's swinging over and he sees somebody get mugged by like a group of people, and he knocks one out, fights one, and then like struggles to take out like a group of muggers. I don't want to see Batman just like with bullets. Like, that's why to me there's never been a Batman movie, because if Batman could just jump in and bullets hit him in the chest, he's Iron Man. You know what I mean? Batman doesn't wear a suit of armor. Batman wears clothes. Batman's a ninja. He sneaks around. He doesn't allow himself to get shot. If you're drawing a bead on Batman, Batman missed. Batman's messing up, man.
I'll ask you that. Who is your most underrated Batman villain that people don't give enough credit to?
I hate the Joker, so I'll start there. I didn't like the Penguin for the longest time until I kind of liked what they did with the Penguin. That he's a nightclub owner, and
Oh, the Colin Farrell TV show they had. Okay.
Yeah, now that I didn't watch the TV show yet, I gotta watch the TV. I was waiting for it to be over because I didn't want to watch 4 episodes and then I get the lecture about being transgender. You know what I mean? So I'm like, now I wasted 4 hours of my life. I'm 56. I don't have many hours left, and I don't want to waste it, watching a show that's going to lecture me. So now everybody says it was excellent. I'll watch it. But as far as a Batman villain, who's a good Batman villain that's underrated? I like the Riddler, but man, that it's tough to do.
I don't think he's ever been done good outside of like the Batman animated series. The new movie that that's not Riddler. That's Jigsaw. That's not Riddler and Matt Reeves' movie. I didn't like Jim Carrey doing it either back in that.
I don't like Jim Carrey.
That's a hot take right there.
Jim Carrey, good movies are the exception. Like I like the Andy Kaufman movie, and I like the what's the one when he's on camera all the time?
Oh, The Truman Show.
The Truman Show. I like that because that premise
that's a great movie.
But that's a good question. Who's an underrated Batman?
There's so many. Like Man Bat is kind of underrated, but he's a pretty simple character.
Professor Hugo Strange.
Yeah, I would say Hugo Strange is a very good Batman villain. He got his due in Arkham City. I think he got his due there. But in anything else, no. Like he's actually a really good villain. Yeah, I like Hugo.
What I like about him is I could be wrong, but I think in his debut story he dressed as Batman and fought crime to understand Batman so he could take him out. I don't know. That's a psychologist who.
Because if you ask most people their top 5 favorites, number one's always gonna be Joker. Then I think it's Riddler, Two-Face, Mr. Freeze is probably gonna be in there.
I like Two-Face. I forgot about Two-Face. I like Two-Face, but I don't think he's underrated. I think he's
no.
People like him.
My personal favorites outside of Joker is Ra's al Ghul and Bane. Those are my 2 favorites.
I
love the concept of Ra's al Ghul.
But Bane just looks silly to me.
No, God, don't tell Graham Nolan that. He's gonna choke you.
I know. Graham Nolan is a guy. He's 10 years older than me, and I would not fight that guy. No way. That guy. I met him he's got a muscular shoulders and a strong grip. I was like, oh my God.
Oh, what am I saying? Oh my God, Mad Hatter.
I don't like Mad Hatter. I don't know why.
There's Victor Zsasz. He's pretty decent.
Victor Zsasz, he's just a full. He's just a full
psychopath. Yeah.
Yeah.
Killer Croc, but he's been in a lot of media. I think people know him at this point.
Yeah, Killer Croc though has been inconsistent. Like, is he just a guy with a skin condition, or is he a full-on alligator monster?
Yeah. What do you think about like Deadshot? He's not underrated.
Deadshot's pretty good. Deadshot's a good villain. How does a guy who shoots guns from a distance lose to Batman? You know what I mean? Like the Punisher. Like if Punisher puts a hit on Batman, goodbye Batman. He ain't gonna walk down the street and go. Batman's gonna Punisher's gonna figure it out, and snipe you from a distance. He's gonna be like, okay, this part ain't armored. Right in your mouth, Batman.
I forgot there was a Batman villain called the Condiment King.
Yeah. Graham Nolan.
What did they do in the 90s? Oh no.
Signal Man.
Oh my God. My brain fried. Poison Ivy.
I like Poison Ivy
so much. Never got her due ever. She's a great villain.
She's a great villain. I like the fact that she's like an ecological terrorist. She's a mass murderer. She should not be with Harley Quinn. I like that she's a femme fatale. And I like that. I like that she started out just as a human who controlled plants, and then experimented on herself and became plant-like. And she's a good villain. So much so that I will have a hot Poison Ivy homage in my Batman Superman team up in Heroic Tales #4.
Would you count Catwoman, if she's a villain in some of his stories, to be a villain of his?
She's a villain. She steals. Yeah. She's a cat burglar. She steals, and she's not overrated. She's not underrated.
Yeah, I guess, but by that logic, could you consider Jason Todd a villain of his? Because he kind of was when he's Red Hood for a little bit there.
Yeah,
That's odd.
didn't he kill people?
Yes.
Yeah. As Steve Ditko says, how many people do you need to kill to become a murderer?
So this one list done by Gamer Rant points. Deathstroke is 15, 14 is Killer Croc, 13 is Poison Ivy.
What are you talking about? The death count?
Oh God, yeah. Gamer Rant had an 8.
But Steve Ditko said, if you steal one thing, you're a thief.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? And you can never not be a thief. So like that was his philosophy, Mr. A, right is right, wrong is wrong. So Jason Todd killed people. He could never be a hero again.
Oh, okay.
Once you're a murderer, you know what I mean? That's the way I look at it.
Like the whole there's no going back once you've already kind of crossed that line kind of thing.
That's why the Punisher is not a superhero. Punisher is a vigilante.
Yeah, I would never like Jason Todd to me if he's doing it's an anti-hero than anything.
Like Deadpool, he's the merc. He's a mercenary. He kills people for money. He's not a superhero. Like why is he hanging out with freaking the Avengers and stuff like that? He should be like showed up at the Avengers. Hey, Captain America, what's good?
I never saw him as an Avenger. Yeah, it's weird.
Well, everybody in Marvel Comics hangs out together these days. There's no difference.
Has he ever been an Avenger? From my recollection, he's never. I don't think so.
But he's a mercenary. You know what I mean? Deathstroke isn't going to join the Justice League. Deadpool is a bad guy. He kills people for money.
Oh, so last few things I'll ask you, man, since I know you got to get out for work in a little bit because you're old. Oh, you're off tomorrow, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you got people at your job pay kind of get those privileges for having the weekends off. That's crazy. Okay, so I don't know if you've been reading about this stuff. I'm pretty sure you have. You know that young men aren't getting like married anymore. There's more like they're not having sex as much anymore. Why do you think that is? Like men not outside of your generation and pretty much outside of mine are just not going out and seeking women anymore. Do you think it's because the quality of women are just not good?
Well,
or do you think
first off, you flirt with the girl, now you're the ick. You know what I mean? And then so the whole art of seduction, believe all women. Guys don't want to talk to girls anymore. Because it's just you get in trouble, you get made fun of or whatever, you know what I mean? And then second off, it's tough and it's an ego blow to get rejected. And now this is the era of the participation trophy. Women too, guys, they don't know how to handle rejection. One of the best things I loved about that movie Fight Club is he's like, go get into a fight and lose. You gotta learn how to take a punch. You know what I mean? Like everything's so protected and everything like that. Like guys aren't hitting on girls. First off, because you're creepy, whatever. You got to be 6 feet tall or whatever. And then second off, then they get rejected. They don't know how to handle it, because nobody's given any adversary in their life anymore. Like there's no more bullies to teach you how to.
And my friend said the same thing last night. Like bullying is a necessary evil to make someone tougher.
In the Marvel universe, Reed Richards saved Galactus because Galactus is the test. Bullies are the Galactus of real life.
Yeah, he also has the Silver Surfer. Not that Norrin Rad. Fuck that Norrin Rad guy. Let's use the girl version.
And then they get married, and then 60% of all marriages end in divorce, and the guy loses the house. The new boyfriend's living in your house. Your kids, you never get to see your kids. That's
what I think it is. I think it's upbringing. Dude, have you interacted with younger people now? It feels like they've been literally raised by wolves. They've been raised by like animals or something. They can't. This is even statistically proven. They're the most depressed. They don't know how to handle emotions at all. It's a lot of things. Who are these people raised by? They must have been raised by like CNN or something. What happened?
I was raised by nobody. My mom was working, my dad was working. I was running around the streets. So
you were essentially black.
I just think like we have a whole generation of kids that their play dates were assigned by their parents. They didn't get to pick their own friends. Every moment of their life was scheduled, and they don't know how to think for themselves. And then and then the school is shit. These kids don't even know how to make change, and And then they turn on social media and they got these Jabba the Hutt looking women like, my man's got to make 6 figures and be 6'2", you know, as she's eating a salacious crumb. You know what I mean? So why would they? But then I see real younger guys like who are teenagers now hitting on girls and being like whiz masters. You know, I think there's like a you know, we'll see now, like in 15 more years, I think there's going to be like a return to like large families getting married.
Eric, I do agree with some of that
Right.
bottom part you said I agree with, but it's the thing of not all women are like that. I don't know, man. I have interacted. It's just obviously anecdotal because you know my life is anecdotal compared to everyone else's. But a lot of women that I've interacted over the years, on the surface, some of them look pretty decent, but a lot of them are just not. I'm trying to be mean, but like not a lot of women are very intelligent, and like women are the most heard.
50% of people are below average intelligence there.
and women are below even that. I'll say women literally just as past the political election cycle only were going to vote for Kamala Harris because she was a woman or because she was black.
Yeah.
Like we're talking like low intelligent women here.
I'm not going to say men or women I think they have different intelligences, but I will say that women are more group think than men.
Yeah,
I think it's evolution.
Yeah, feminism proves that, right?
I think it's evolutionary.
And I do agree with Eric. You know, I think guys do need to start doing good for themselves, like obviously getting fit and having good hygiene and all that stuff. That stuff's fine too. But the quality of women is not good because like some of the guys in your category are already married. They haven't been looking for women in ages, obviously. So like what their definition of a woman is like from like the fucking early 2000s, maybe 1990s.
I'll say this. I'll get a little personal on you. You know, I'm happily married for 20 years now. But from like, you know, 15 years old is when you all of a sudden you're like, girl, you know, I don't know how it was with you, but like comic books, Dungeons and Dragons, board game. And then one day I was just like, girls aren't icky anymore. Like it, but I was a nerd. I was shy. I was nervous, you know, and it got to the point like all my friends moved out of the States. So now I was 24 years old and I was like, you know, a couple of girls friends that I had basically hit on me because I was like nervous guy. And I got on a train. I moved to Albuquerque and I said, I'm going to reinvent myself. I'm going to, you know, I can't be this shy wallflower anymore. And I just said, I'm going to be outgoing and I'm going to hit on girls. I didn't make $1 million. I literally had $40 in my pocket to my name. So I wasn't rich. I was still fat and I was still a comic book nerd, but I said, I'm going to be outgoing and take risks and be funny. You know what I mean? And it was literally a decision like that. And I'm going to say from the age of 24 until I met my wife, I did pretty damn good. And again, I didn't lose weight. You know, I just hit on girls and talked to girls. It was you know, outgoing and you know, oh, you know what I mean? There was one girl that from college that she looked like Laura Palmer from Twin Peaks. You know, every guy was after her. And I was like, why are you with me? She's like, because you asked me out. Like everybody was so intimidated by her, you know what I mean? And I'll never forget in high school, I sat in front of me was this girl Tracy, and she was beautiful. Oh my God, the black hair, white skin. She was beautiful.
Marcus, that would be because you installed, I would say, a sense of self-worth into your sons. Like I'd imagine looking at your profile picture, your sons aren't like bums. You're not a bum. You've actually were inactive in your act. You were actually active in your kid's life. Imagine you set this on one of my shows. You were on a while ago. I think it was the Iron Man podcast one. You went to the store and all the mom did was just give their son the iPad while they were in the cart and they just shopped. They just plopped kids in front of like,
oh, that's another thing.
Tablet.
Yeah. I don't want to sound like one of these old people like video games, but
back in my day, that's literally that.
Kids are sitting home playing video games, you know, and they're interacting with their friends on the computer. I was out in the street riding my bicycle, like talking to girls. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm not saying kids can't have a tablet or anything, but there was a sense of back in the day, you play video games for like an hour or two.
Yeah, there's only so much time you could play before you're like, this sucks. You know, and then
well back then, like I guess for a lot of people that grew up, you played video games for about an hour or two before you go to bed. You had a set time limit you had with it. It wasn't like you let this consume you. Now, on the weekends, you do it as long as you wanted to, but on school days, no, you do this for an hour after your homework and then you go to bed. You know, nowadays there's no regulations on it. Kids, Dude, some of the kids for League of Legends, this kid who said he was 12, said his parents let him play League of Legends for 10 hours straight a day after he got his homework
They
done.
weren't bothering him.
That's crazy.
They kept the kid out of their hair. Like me and my friends. We were out playing rarely, or running around the streets. And then when we were 16 years old, we all got cars and we're driving around. Drinking beer and going to parties and stuff like. And I was like, damn, I didn't tell a girl.
I'm not kidding. Some of the younger generation of League of Legends players that became competitive, after they got their homework done and they did well in school, they would come up. Their parents would just allow them to play 10 hours a day on League.
Yeah. Me and my wife will go to a restaurant and we're just like, look at the kids just sitting there. My wife was yelling at me because I'm constantly looking at my phone. I can only imagine if I was 15 years old, I'd be like, one of my nieces, she's at Thanksgiving dinner at the dinner table. Like,
do you think homeschooling has hurt a lot of the modern kids? A lot of them are homeschooled now. Do you think that makes kids essentially like socially inept weirdos?
Well, as opposed to what, transgender in public school?
That's the problem too. That's the trade-off, though. You don't put them in social settings.
I'd rather my kid be a little social awkward and an individual than Let's face it, they spend 7 hours a day for 12 years in public school, and when they graduate, they don't know that Hawaii is part of the United States. They can't make change. God. They don't know how the government works. What did they learn? Well, they learned that gender is fluid.
That's the trade-off. Is that like if you don't homeschool your kid potentially can go to public school and just waste their time there and learn nothing. Did you read that story where that one Asian little boy broke his like collarbone and the teachers were just laughing at him, didn't notice it?
Wow.
That's the thing is either you homeschool your kids to protect them from that system, or you put them there hoping that it makes them more socially socially, not retarded,
I'd rather an awkward individual kid that understands how the Constitution works.
You gotta play sports. Like, couldn't sports be like a social thing you have them do?
I hated sports growing up, but now I'm like, if I had a kid, I would encourage him to play sports.
That's not that bad now, right? Yeah.
It's funny. As much as I hate the Big Bang Theory, there was that one episode where Sheldon and Wallowitz were trying to play basketball, and the guy with the glasses, the main character, goes, "I totally get it now. I know why the bullies did what they did."
Oh shit, man. Yeah, the thing is, I hope most guys realize their worth, because some of these nerds that give all this money to OnlyFans women, they have money. It's not like they're socially inept where they don't realize the value of a job. It's just the value of women. They're just not understanding.
I dated a girl in Albuquerque, and she used to be a stripper. So she wasn't a stripper when I dated. She was actually a mother when I dated. Just got divorced, and she was talking about being and I'm all liberal college kid at the time, and I'm like, yeah, I don't like strip clubs either because they exploit women. And she just looked at me. She goes, "Exploit women?" She goes, "What planet are you from?" She goes, "Where's the money going?" "The money's going from you to me." She goes, "You go to the strip club, you think you're going to get lucky. We laugh at you, and we take your kids' college money. We take your kids' Christmas money. We take your car payments. People are getting divorced. And then we go in the back room and go, MSK over there's a sucker. This guy's good for $100. She goes, "You men are getting and I've never been to a strip club since. That was 1993. The last time I darkened the door.
Even you guys said you were homeschooled, and even Eric DeGuapo says, if you homeschool them and they only interact with their parents and their siblings, that's gonna make them a little like socially awkward. So and depending on, and to be fair, you can grow out of that.
As opposed to what? It's socially awkward and they'll get a good job. You know what I mean? my buddies' daughters are homeschooled. They have a homeschooled like collective, so they actually go with like 30 other kids, and they have like one mother that's like a qualified teacher, but she doesn't work in the school system anymore. And she sets, and there's like a curriculum that they send away from. And the only thing that drives me nuts is they can't sit still in a restaurant. So I don't go to a restaurant with them. And I tell them flat out, when your kids can sit still in a restaurant, they could read, they could write, they talk like, you're like, is this a little kid? But they just can't sit still in a restaurant. You can't have everything, I guess.
Yeah, if you ask me about the trade-off, though, I would have them potentially do public school, maybe if they're in high school. Because those precious years when they're growing up as a kid is very like tender. You know, the all of them getting like mentally destroyed. But I don't think having them going through high school is bad.
I'll tell you this: I hate teachers. I was a public school teacher at one point, and I'll tell you, they are the worst people in the world. I never met a group of people that want to pat on the back for doing a shit job like teachers. I hate teachers.
Do you think it's because of like the pay? They don't get. I know teachers never got paid.
Don't listen to that crap. They work 180 days a year, and they get like 180 grand a year in New York. The teachers all have schools. The teachers all have nice houses. They all have husbands that have other jobs. Don't listen to any of that crap. They get 30 days off a year that they could bank. So a lot of the school teachers, they take off the last 3 years of their career. They just call in sick for 3 years, collect paychecks, because they banked up all their sick days. And then what?
They're crying because they didn't get overtime and they only get paid once a month.
Screw them all. You know what? If the kids could count change when they graduated, maybe I'd be sympathetic.
Yeah, dude. The common misconception is like teachers don't get paid a lot of money. I actually look. This thing is when people lie to someone, because the average person just takes it as what it is, face value. I challenge people for anything. Literally look into it. I actually looked into it. Some of them get paid more than $50K. They get paid fine. What is this? What is this notion? Where is this coming from? Just lying willingly, just to lie to people. That's why you can't trust people now. They'll just lie about the most basic thing.
I tell you what, you want more pay? How about I give every kid in your class, and if 80% of your class passes the test, we'll give you a raise.
Okay, I'll have to ask you this since you said you were a teacher. Did the black kids always come in like a little? They can't read, or they were always having the bad grades?
There was one white kid in the entire school. I was the only white teacher in the entire. I was the only male teacher in the entire school.
Oh God, that's
crazy. And I'll tell you this. Not only could the kids not read, they couldn't speak. The first day of school, I would ask the kids, let's draw a picture of your family. Kids couldn't draw a picture of their family. They didn't know who was in their family. I'm not joking. I could, by the end of the day, I could pick the kids who had a father living in the house. It's drastically, the number one problem with black kids is lack of parents, lack of fathers. That's it. Anything else, you want to solve the black problem, you got to have two parents living in the house, mother and a father, preferably living in that house. And the father's got to go to work every day. You know how much I learned from my father without even asking a question? I learned you got to get up, you got to go to work, you got to do this. It sucks. My father would come home tired. That's the problem. It's the magic number. 70% of black kids live in poverty. 70% of black kids have come from single parent homes. 70% of black kids have a police record. It's the magic number. You want to know what white supremacy is? White supremacy is growing up in a house with a mother and a father. That's it. Indians in America, they do better than whites, and they have less single parent homes.
If you tell people that, like the stuff you just said,
I tell it to anybody who's an asshole. I don't. You
would get called racist. Basically, acknowledging objective reality is considered racist now. Literally, you tell people this: Asians, Asian Americans, had it real bad here, but they're not out there committing a whole bunch of crimes.
That's the whole point of issue number 2 of my comic. I made a character called Mary Sue. Mary Sue's grandparents fled Mao Zedong's China, because they were Roman Catholic. They came to America, and that's like one of the things in the comic is people like, you were oppressed. She's like, my parents own a supermarket. My parents literally fled concentration camps, but we came to America with nothing. Well, there's based on one of my partners at work. Anybody says anything bad about America, he's a Chinese guy, and he was just like, I don't want to hear anything bad about America. He's like, I came to America with nothing. We got robbed by the Chinese government when we were on the boat. We got rescued, brought to America. He goes, and now look at me. I own 2 buildings in Brooklyn. Don't ever say anything. He goes, if you're not doing well in America, it's because you're an asshole. And he's this little Chinese guy. And people are like, teaching is the easiest gig I ever had. Work 6 hours a day, get paid for 8. I get paid 3 months off. And during the summer, I make $13K for remote teaching. There you go. Eric the Guapo.
Just said, I ain't
complaining. Yeah, again,
What made you stop doing it to becoming an electrician? Just better pay overall then?
I couldn't stand the politics. I was getting angrier and angrier and yelling at kids, and I just knew I was going to lose my temper and I was going to get arrested for like just beating everybody up. My principal told me to stop teaching grammar. You got to learn to speak like them. I'm like, and she's like, you got to learn to speak Ebonics like you do. I said, Ebonics is baby talk. And then people like you legitimize it by calling it Ebonics. I said, we got to teach proper English. I'm not teaching Ebonics to kids. So, I was called a racist. I was like, okay, fine. I'm a racist. That's what you want to call me. That's fine. And it's funny because in my classroom, there was just rows. I was told to put the kids in cooperative units, and then that lasted about a week. And then I just put kids in rows, and my class was reading two years higher. They had a higher reading in math, and they're like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I got rid of all of this cooperative learning nonsense, and I put the kids in rows." And they pointed to one girl, and she goes, "Do you like this?" She goes, "Yeah." He stabs me with the pencil. I have my own area over here, So the principal told me, you got to put him in cooperative units. I had her niece in my class. So I said, okay, you're sitting next to him, the kid who stabs people with pencils. And she looked at me in fear. I said, oh, now you don't want cooperative units. You want other kids to get stabbed with pencils, And that was another thing I took
teaching.
Yeah. Oh my God. And this was before the woke stuff. So I never would have survived. I never would. I mean, I'm seeing the woke stuff in the construction right now. It's funny. There's a big cement mixer that drives through the job and it pours cement, and the guys. So there's these guys on these motorized wheelbarrows, like come driving up the cement truck, poops all the cement into it, and right across the truck it says "Women Building New York." And every day I just get really angry when I see that truck. There's not one woman on this job site, but they get the credit.
You remember that when it was popping off some years ago, where women were like, "We want to do construction. Men have always held us back." Women aren't really that interested in physical labor jobs like that.
Yeah, so
no one was stopping women from being in construction.
Big truck says "Women Building New York," driven by a man, by 100 guys.
Business is probably owned by a man.
Bunch of men. Where is this woman? Where is this fictional woman building New York? I'd like to meet. And then we got a row of 20 porta potties, and they're freaking disgusting because there's 400 guys taking craps. You know what I mean? Just they're filled with mud because we're walking through the mud. And then there's one that says "women" with a lock on it, and it's locked all day long because there's no. How come that woman can't use this imaginary woman? She can't use that porta potty. She shut the door. It's unisex when you shut the door because there's only one little shitter inside of it. Use that one. No, you want. It's like the X-Men. We just want to be treated like everybody else, but we really want preferential treatment. Ladies, shit in dirty porta potty with the rest of us.
Yeah, that's the thing is women were mad because people were telling them they couldn't get into like construction and those other like industry hard labor jobs. No one ever told them that. That's just a lie. They just didn't want to do it. That's not how those jobs work. If you want to be a teacher or a construction worker or electrician, you do the classwork, you do the education to get it. Someone says in order to get make it as a teacher, that's like, what the fuck?
In order to get my job, you had to pick up a 50-pound weight and carry it across the room.
That's a requirement, like lifting 50 pounds. Yeah,
because we have these galvanized steel pipes that we got to carry. Now, guess who couldn't do it and then sued, and now they got rid of that requirement. So guess what? I'm 56 years old carrying these galvanized steel pipes on my shoulder while the girls are fixing little wires at 23 years old. You know what I mean? I'm 56 years old. It used to be the older 56-year-old guys were fixing the wires while the 23-year-old guys were doing the galvanized pipes. But now, because of equality, that girl will never touch a galvanized steel pipe that are 150 pounds a stick her entire career. She'll never have a bad back because of equality.
That's what I said, man. Do women know how much a cement bag weighs? I actually picked a few up at work because we had to do something with. I saw a guy doing it. I just want to pick up. Cement bags are pretty heavy.
Usually about 50 pounds. Yeah, at 50 pounds, and it just has no support. So it's just like when I was going through my training, I had to take a class. So now I'm in the class, and the teacher is like, we're gonna have New York's first female firefighter here. Yay! So of course, that's next week's class. So I go home, I look her up and everything like that. She sued to get the standards changed so she could be a firefighter. She spent her 20 years as a firefighter driving the truck. She never went into a burning building. She never carried anybody, because she couldn't physically carry people. So she gives her speech about how she made equality for women. So any questions? So I raised my hand. I said, yes. How did you becoming a firefighter make me safe? Because being a firefighter is not just jobs for job's sake. The purpose of being a firefighter is to save the constituency. I said, could you carry me across this room? Mm-hmm. And it's dead silent. The teacher goes, well, John, I go, you be quiet. I listened to it. Now it's my turn. I said, now you sued to lower the standards. So you couldn't pick up my 300-pound father, but the 6'6" guy did. And then the 6'6" guy who blew his back out, tripping, carrying somebody, he doesn't get to drive the fire truck because that's a necessary job. He doesn't get to drive the fire truck while he's recovering because you took that job when you were 22 years old. 22-year-old firefighter should be in that freaking building, chopping down walls and rescuing people. But you just sit there going, look at me, I'm a firefighter. Look at me, applaud me. Applaud me.
Most people don't understand at this point now, at least it should be very apparent now, women are all just image perception focused. That's it. It's all 100% image.
I'm not a total barbarian. You get me a 6'6" woman who could carry my fat father across a burning building. She could be a firefighter. Don't lower the standard. Like cops should be freaking Lou Ferrigno. Cops should be gigantic. Every day you're in, I'm on the train. I'm watching videos of some guy beating up 2 female cops and getting away. No, cops should be like, yes, sir. I'm scared of you, sir. I'm going to do what you say, sir. You know what I mean? That's what cops should be. Another story, I'll get myself in trouble. My niece got a scholarship, full ride for college. So I'm like, what are you going to be? What are you going to do? What do you want to do in college? I'm going to take gender studies. I said, please, for the love of God, don't take gender studies. Please, I said, what are you going to do with gender studies? Please, for the love of, we had a big talk. Now, she was fine for a year. She was fine by the 3rd year. We're fighting now. And she's like, do you know that there's not enough women in STEM? And I said, really? Why? Because I said, now let me ask you a question. Who told you not to be in STEM? I said, you got a free ride. She goes, because I wanted gender studies. I said, so be mad at yourself. You're mad at women for choosing the same thing you chose. I said, you get what I'm saying? You could have been in STEM, but you chose gender studies. Most women would rather be in gender studies than STEM. And now you were told to be mad at women for choosing what they wanted to study. And we don't talk.
Like that's the thing is, I don't know if you watched Charlie Kirk, but there was another guy I watched called Officer Tatum, and this Pakistani lady was talking to Officer Tatum, and she was saying her mom was a CEO in construction, and she was talking about that. Oh, well, in the construction field, like we have to go through like racism and prejudice and all that stuff, and it's like, but you're talking about like systemic racism and all that stuff, and he was trying to explain to her, how is the system racist if your mom was able to be a CEO? That doesn't even make logical sense. Who cares if people along the way called you a mean name? Who cares?
You don't think I get called a mean name every day?
Yeah, just living life.
I go to work. Hey, John, you asshole fat bastard. Do this. Okay. Yeah.
Oh shit, man! Women are literally too emotional. That's not women are emotional as hell.
Here's another story I tell at work. So I get along with everybody. I like to talk to people. I get along with it. So I always get the biggest troublemaker as a partner, whether it's the angry guy, whether it's the incompetent guy, or whether it's the girl. That's always my partner. So I'm working with this girl. She had pigtails and everything like that, and she would come to work late. And so now I'm already working. She's like, "Oh, John, yeah, I'm sorry I'm late, but I was getting railed last night. Now I'm walking. I'm bow-legged today because my boyfriend's hung like." I'm like, "Okay, good. Well, this is what we're doing over here. So why don't you do this and hold. And then after like a week, she's like, "What? You don't like me?" I said, "Where's this coming from?" She goes, "You don't talk to me." Because then like somebody else would walk by, like, MSK, you ugly mother effer. How you doing? And then she would say something. I'm like, "Yeah, so, okay. Why don't you?" help me with this over. So I'm like, what? I'm talking to you respectfully. That means I don't like you. She goes, I see you joke with everybody else. And I was like, yeah, well, So you don't like me. I said, listen, you want the truth? I don't joke with women at work. I don't joke with women at work. I'm as professional could be. And she's like, oh, what? Because you don't think women should be in this? I said, I never said that. I said, this is you. I just said I don't joke with women at work. She's like, why? I said, you want the truth or do you want me to lie to you? She was telling me the truth. I said, because if I'm working and I have a problem with the guy, doesn't matter what I say, doesn't matter what, if it's racial or personal, whatever, we're going to solve that problem, me and him, whether it's through words, whether it's through fist fights or whatever, but it's going to be between us. I said, but when it comes to a woman, you're going to go to the executive board, and then I got to go down, miss a couple of days of work, not get paid, and then I got to justify myself, and it's put my permanent record and whatever. And she goes, but I wouldn't do that. I said, maybe you won't. I said, you could be the coolest girl in the world. I said, but the problem is you get to define what's wrong. I don't know what's wrong. You know, you're sitting here talking about your boyfriend banging you and stuff like that. Now, if I talk about my girlfriend banging me, like, she goes, oh, I would think it's funny. I said, yeah, but I don't know that. I can't risk that. I can't risk my career because a girl may get offended. So I choose not to say anything offensive. It's just a matter of survival. And she was like, all mad. Now she went home and her fiance was a guy that I work with. Now they're married. And he was like, yeah, this asshole John, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, hey, back up. He's absolutely right. He goes, I joke with you because we have a relationship. And I said,
I think women subconsciously like getting put in their place. They like when men do that.
Even though
they say they won't, women always love getting put in their place. Because you know the relationships where the woman runs things, it's just bad because the guy just has no balls or anything, you know?
But so he was just like, listen, he's absolutely right. He goes, I don't joke with any girls at work. He goes, and he said the same thing. Doesn't matter what happens with a guy, almost the same words. If it's racial, if it's personal, or whatever, they're going to solve that problem. You know, they're going to go outside, fist fight or whatever, and it's going to be done. They're not going to involve the administration. So he goes, so yeah, he's absolutely right. So she came in the next day and she apologized. She's like, I never thought of it from your point of view before. And I was like, you understand? I said, it doesn't mean I don't like, and we got along. And then the joking was like innocent joking, like, you know what I mean? Like, so we lightened up. But here's the thing. 2 years later, she brought up a guy on charges because she didn't like the way he talked. He said something that she didn't like. So she's the coolest girl in the world until she wasn't. Exactly like I said. The guy, and I knew the guy she brought up on charges. This guy was terrified of his own shadow. I don't know what he said, but like, you know what I mean? So now he's going down to the examination board and has to defend himself and blah, blah, blah. He got laid off and he lost, when you get laid off, you're out of work for 8 months. That's $50,000 that he, you know what I mean? I dodged a bullet, but if I, there's a couple of girls that I work with that are excellent workers, so I'm not saying that they shouldn't be doing the business. I'm just saying until we get a clear, this is the line and you get to define the line, then I don't, at work, I'm just like, hey, MSK, yeah, blah, 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 I make a comic book, blah, blah, blah. Then a girl comes by, I'm like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. And it's night and day.
Eric said one of the stations I worked at, there was a woman medic with us. There was one bathroom we all had to share and got some pee on the toilet seat. She went to an admin and said, we pleasured ourselves. Yeah. And people argue with me all the time that women are intelligent. It's like, come on, man, what are we doing? Women are below level of intelligence most of the time. I'm not
going to go that. I'm not going to say that, but I'm just going to say that we're
different. The 19th, John, you got to say it.
We're different. We evolved differently. Women are different. And anybody saying otherwise is denying reality. And, women can be in construction. They should be women cops because I don't want men frisking girls either. You know what I mean? But for the most part, cops should be gigantic guys. Unless you're an exception to there shouldn't be women firefighters. You got to carry fat bastards out of a building. And let's face it, it's America. Everybody's a fat bastard. So.
Oh, well, as we come down a little bit, I'll ask you, after Heroic Tales #1, you have a plan on releasing another comic book going into 2025, right? You're releasing just one more, just basically one a year. That's it?
I would like to do 3 a year. So here's Heroic Tales 2 is about 40% done already. I was talking to Lorenzo, my artist, what would be realistic time frame. So we'll probably put the campaign up end of January. Putting up a campaign right now is just bad timing right before Christmas. So January, and then probably 6 months to fulfillment. I also have another comic called Eddie is Doomed. We got, I'm rewriting the script. I want this to be important. So I'm rewriting the script and that's going to be with another artist, Oscar. Oscar's the colorist for the backup story, The Suit. He's going to do the art, and Tonic Ball is going to do the art. So Eddie is Doomed is a elevator pitch. It's Love and Rockets meets Crisis on Infinite Earths. So there's going to be two artists for the real world and then the comic book world. And, I think it's going to be a real good story. Real dark. It's adult. It's so we could probably do that concurrently. And I'd like to think that I garnered enough goodwill that people aren't going to be like, he's got two campaigns. You know what I mean? And then I would like to go right into Heroic Tales 3. And then I have another comic I'd like to do, a mythological story that I don't want to spoil. As much as I spoil everything, this one I want to keep tight. And I think that might be like my comic that I'm known for. If it's a tenth as good as I imagine it's going to be like, wow, this is a good comic. And if Eddie is Doomed does well, I'd like to do because it has like a bunch of like Silver Age goofy superhero characters. I'd like to do like the golden age of the top 10 and have like artists who could ape like 40s style comics, and then the silver age of the top 10 and do like more crazy Gardner Fox, like my color costume turned purple. Quick, we must go to Jupiter and solve this mystery, kind of stories. And I'd like to hire because there's, that's 40 different artists.
I'd like. And that's the thing is, artists cost a lot of money. I also another underrated thing about comic book crowdfunding is the artist takes a good amount of that money too. So the industry rate,
Joe made money on my comic. Everybody who worked for me made money. I didn't.
Like, if people don't know this, because comics cost a lot of money, they kind of revealed this over the years, at least in the modern era. It's $60 to $80 per page. Okay, so if you have a 24-page comic book,
who is working for you? Jeez.
Yeah, that was the rumor that I had heard that people, that's what they actually make at Marvel and DC for the books. $60 to $80 a page. So that's what, like $1,000 just for art alone. You haven't even got anything else done. That's just art alone.
I got to pay the artist. I got to pay the colorist. I got to pay the letterer. And then I got to pay. I had to pay a guy to do logos for all the characters, and then I had to pay for pre-press to get all the files formatted so they can be printed. It breaks down to over $200 a page for my comic. I'm not going to give the exact numbers, but I wish it was $80 to something a page. But then Renzo wouldn't be able to live. Oscar wouldn't be able to live. Daniel wouldn't be able to live. Yeah, Marcus is saying that $60 to $80 is cheap for a comic book.
Yeah, but if you're doing let me see if I can do the calculator right now, because I'm pretty sure that's like $1,000. So let's do lowest 60 times 24.
My comic was 40 pages. So do
that's
200.
That's $1,400. That's just on art. That's it, not lettering, anything else.
So what's 40 times 200?
Oh fuck! I didn't go to school. I watched CNN. 40 times what?
40 pages times $200 a page.
$8,000.
Right, and then it was $2,000 to ship, and it was $2,000 to print, and I made $8,000.
Good God! It's just a starting comic book to get in. That's it. Oh God, man. Crazy, man. But I love it. I love comic books to death. I wouldn't want it any other way. But to love this is hard some days when you start talking about things like that. I don't understand why on Twitter people only just go over the numbers, because every day people are going like, it costs too much to do the book. I have to be this. If it costs too much to do the book and you constantly keep complaining about it, do something else for money then. If you really hate the amount of money you're getting, just do literally something else. Comics do not pay well. I don't know where people get that sentiment from. It's not a thing,
I love it though. I mean, you know, me and my wife I buy every Friday. I buy a scratch off. You know, I won $45, and then you daydream. If I won $5,000 a week for life, I'd retire and make comics. Renzo would have as much money as he needed. You know, it's fun. I like doing it. It's very fulfilling. You know, and it's so cool. It's it's ego stroking. People like, man, I got you. Like, I don't know. Do you know Brian Christou? He does Six Gun Gorilla.
Oh, Brian Chris guy, yeah, 600. Yeah, I like that guy.
Yeah, he just sent me a message yesterday. Man, I just read your comic. It was so good. I was rooting for you. It made me feel good. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not jealous of his comic. He ain't jealous of my comic. You know, Brian Bauer does Wolf and Batsy every time an issue comes out. I was like, oh man, this is so good. Like, he just did $10,000 on one comic. You know what I mean? And he's like, oh man, because I think he was expecting 5,000 and he did 10. Should I be jealous? No, I'm like, oh my God, Brian, that's awesome. That's awesome. You know, Tonic Mole's killing it with his comic. He's getting better and better and more money every issue. It's fun. It's good. You know, I'm not counting anybody else's money. I'm rooting for everyone. Hojo's got the mythicals going. I want that guy that's a good comic, man. Everybody buy it. I'm not one of these socialists that think it's a zero-sum loss. There's infinite money for us. You know, there's enough money for MSK, Marcus, me, Hojo, Brian Bauer. There's, you know, and the sky's the limit. The problem is, who wakes up and says, you know what, I'm going to go on the computer and look to see if anybody's making a comic book that I could buy right now, but not get it for 8 months. You know, we got to do something. I hate the term think outside the box, but we got to come up with something. I don't think this is sustainable. And
Not even close.
And that's why I think the bigwigs in this scene get so upset when I say things like I was saying, because
you're essentially just saying the unspoken. What's the thing you're saying? The underlying truth or something like that. You're saying the quiet part out loud. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
You know, because they're too invested in it, and it's their main. I'm a construction worker. If my next comic book bombs, which please get my next comic. If my next comic book bombs, I'm not destitute. You know, matter of fact, I'll do better because then I'm not dropping an unholy amount of money on a comic book. I could put it in a 401k or Bitcoin or something like that. You know what I mean? Or buy other comics that I could sell. So it actually will benefit me if my comic bombs, because then I'm done. But I like doing it. It's fun. You know, I don't know. Am I babbling?
No, you're fine.
As I eat pretzels.
No, you're fine. My screen just froze. So I was looking at a whole bunch of porn. Nah, I'm just kidding, guys. Oh. Yeah, that's the thing is, you know, people see the big numbers. Like Joe Sanson, you know, that guy who does the Reaper Destroyer series.
Yeah, it's awesome.
He made like 80K on his
good for him.
Which is very rare. That's big. But you gotta understand, that's an outlier. That's not the average person.
Yeah, but look how talented he is.
He's actually very talented. Yeah, that is crazy.
Look at Michael Bancroft. What did he do? Over 100,000 on the Lucent?
Mm-hmm.
Look at that. First off, he's the nicest guy in the world. Second off, he's like doesn't get involved in any controversy. And third off, he's super talented. The fact that Michael Bancroft and Joe Sontag and all these guys could make that much money just shows you that the potential is there. Wouldn't it suck if everybody was only making $4,000? You know what I mean?
Oh God.
It's funny. Another thing, when I was in school to become an electrician, we took a class. I hated this teacher, and he's teaching us all. He goes, poverty is when you make less than half of the average income. So he says the average income in the United States is $25,000. He goes, so if you make $13,000 or less, it's considered poor. So he says, look at the number of people that are poor in the United States. He goes, and look at the rich. He goes, so his example was Serbia, where the average pay or something like this was like $5,000. So they had less people making $2,500. So it's better to live in Serbia than the United States, according to this teacher. I said, are you out of your mind? I said, this is really what you're teaching us? That I said, I said, I want to, I said, you know which country has he goes, look at the income, look at the difference between the income inequality. Look at look at this. I said, you know which country has the best, meaning the smallest gap between the rich and the poor? He goes, what? I go, Nigeria. But do you want to live there? Because everybody's poor. Haiti has a small income gap because everybody's freaking poor. I said, I want to live in the country with the biggest income gap because that shows me the sky's the limit. You know what I mean? I don't want to live in a country where the highest people are making $40,000 because that means you can't make $70,000. Everybody's freaking poor. The poorest countries in the world, Colombia has a small income gap because everybody's freaking poor. That's the way I look at crowdfunding. When I see Joe Soundtag making $100,000 and Michael Bancroft making $100,000, I'm like, this is a guy who wasn't a professional. This is a guy who only does this, and he's banging it, man. So it's inspiring. It's inspiring for me,
So, last few things I'll ask you, man, before we head out of here. First thing is, anything planned coming up in 2025 you want to let the audience know about?
I got 3 comics in the works at various stages. I got Heroic Tales 2, which is, like I said, script is written and it's halfway drawn and colored. I got Eddie is Doomed. I'm working on the 3rd rewrite right now, and I think Oscar's getting like, come on, man, where's the script? But so that's going. And then I got this mythological story that I just finished all of the research, and I'm going to sit down and bang that. And I hope to have that out by the end of the year. So at least set the campaign up by the end of the year. That's probably
man.
So I got 3 comics in the works. I have a theoretical 4th comic if Eddie is Doomed does well. I'm going to keep myself busy.
And last thing I ask you is, do you have any shout outs you want to get to anyone in particular, and anything else you want to say before we head out?
Shout outs. I don't know. Sunday, I have Sunday comics at 10 a.m. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I do that every Sunday. It's like my favorite thing. I just wake up, have coffee, 10 a.m. in the morning, just talk about one particular issue. It's a lot of fun. I have open slots if anybody wants to come in for my conversations. I kind of got used to doing the fulfilling for 2 weeks that I broke the habit. I didn't make any. I didn't schedule any talks, but I don't know. Just thanks to everybody who supported me, which is, so much advice. Everybody has been friendly and helpful and supportive. I can count with 2 fingers how many people were assholes to me, but everybody else was so nice and supportive. Unfortunately, the 2 troublemakers always make the news, but for the most part, this is a real fun community, and I enjoy it.
Yeah, there is literally so many differing opinions on comics here. You'll never be without a disagreement to talk about it.
Right. It's okay to disagree.
Yeah. It's just some of them are just outlandishly horrible for takes. It's like, man, how in the world you come up with that bullshit you're saying?
So, I mean, it's clobbering time where we fight over characters. Who would win, Batman or Spider-Man? And sometimes it gets heated, but it's all fun,
That's what it should be,
Comics should be fun, yeah. So it's all childhood wish fulfillment. Why are we fighting and get nasty?
And as you guys know, tomorrow when we do our panel show, we'll be on our 100th episode. So be on the lookout for that. Wanted to make sure I took the episode slowly, getting towards this right now because 100 episodes is very big. What's up, Brian? How you doing, man? So. Yeah, there's going to be a little bit of changes coming up for this show. You guys will see something did happen that I didn't want to happen, unfortunately, but it's all good. I have been doing this for so long that I know how to completely just fix the situation anyway. So that's all you have to do as a man. As a man, when something gets thrown at you, that's a curveball, you just learn how to deal with it and you adjust and you make the most out of your situation. So that's it.
Brian, since you're in the chat, I just want to say thank you for your supportive message. It really, really was nice of you. Another fellow creator just messaged me. I got your comic. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. You did a good job. You should be proud of yourself. Took them 30 seconds and it made my day. That's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about.
Yeah. I will also say for anyone that does back crowdfunding books and they do eventually inevitably get them, hopefully in a shorter time frame, but we know how that can go. tell the creator what you liked and disliked. And if they throw a hissy fit, well, who cares? As long as you know you told them how you felt, and hopefully they improve from what you told them.
You know, like I said, I got a bad review the other day, but I got stuff out of it that was helpful and useful. So I didn't, All
right.
So
just want to say, everyone, thank you for checking out this episode of the MSK show, and we will see you guys.